Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Hustler Remis with you on a Friday afternoon. Huge tilt tonight at Canada Life Center. Jets welcoming in the Tampa Bay Lightning. And what a goaltending matchup we've got. Connor Hellebuyck going up against Andrei Vasilevsky. 4 Jets returning to the lineup tonight. J-Mo going to the All-Star game. World Juniors, we're going to be all over it. Ken Wiebe's going to join us, as well as none other than Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Let's get right to it. Welcome everyone in chat and get Michael Remis in here. Remo, what's going on?
I'm feeling good, Hustler. Feeling pretty good. I think it's a great night for hockey here. Some big news. Josh Morrissey named to the All-Star team. We weren't sure who it was going to be, if it was going to be him or Hellebuyck. They announced 32, one from each team. I have some issues with the way the current format is, but it is what it is. We'll have to get on a vote. We're going to show you guys how to go on NHL.com and vote for your whoever you want. I filled out 3 Jets, Dubois, Connor, and Hellebuyck. I mean, you can do your ballot the way you want. We had the World Junior Gold, back-to-back gold. It's funny, for a lot of countries, it's first gold since whatever year. For Canada yesterday was, first back-to-back gold since 2011, which tells you about the success that they have had at this tournament. What an exciting game, exciting tournament in Halifax. And yes, we have Jets, Lightning tonight. Number of players back in the lineup. Nikolai Ehlers, who's played 2 games this year. Blake Wheeler, after that, I can only imagine how painful his injury was that he suffered. Cole Perfetti back. And Nate Schmidt, ahead of schedule after that hit he took in the corner. I forget, wow, it seemed pretty recently. Anyways, great game. I'm excited to see everyone in chat. Nice Friday, Huss. We're going to be back with the regularly scheduled marble race. It's Friday. I'm in a good mood. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I am as well. And speaking of that marble race, got to give a shout out to our pal James over at Canadian Club, because a nice pair of seats for the game tonight appeared in the WST inbox. So what better way to give those out than be part of the marble race tonight? So we'll let you know how those will be delivered out. We'll also have a hoodie for our winner as normal. And we'll do that at the end of the show. So make sure to stick around for your chance to win and maybe get a pair of sweet seats for tonight's game. Just before we get into everything, shout out to our great sponsors, Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada. New lock shop is up. Dusty's back. We got together and banged it all out for Week 18 in the NFL. So be sure to check out our YouTube channel. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, just go in Lock Shop Bets, hit that subscribe button, and it is all there for you. Of course, Little Brown Jug, Canadian Club, Culligan Water, Vita Health Fresh Market, Wallace & Wallace, Consolidated Supply, F Apparel, Manitoba Battery, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, and our friends at Not Auto Corp. We're going to basically be all in on the Jets talk up until Hacksaw joins us for what will be a very interesting NFL notebook before the marble race a little later on. Ken Wiebe is going to join us as well. But let's just quickly, you mentioned the World Juniors. We should start there and then move on, because I know the Jets Lightning game and this weekend is going to dominate conversations around it. But what a thriller. And I said to you yesterday on the program that it was absurd at how the bookmakers were ignoring the Czechs. The Czechs had arguably been the best team throughout the entire tournament. And it made absolutely no sense that they were such a big underdog against Canada, especially considering the way they beat Canada at the beginning of the tournament. And it really did play out that way. A 2-0 lead for Canada disappeared quite quickly in the third period. And then another incredible 3-on-3 overtime that this time didn't end with Connor Bedard scoring the winner. But man, was that a scene last night. And I don't know, my biggest takeaway outside Connor Bedard is going to be the next great superstar in the National Hockey League once he arrives, is Halifax and having the World Junior Championship in a smaller non-NHL market was exactly what the doctor ordered to get this back to the event that I think Canadians fell in love with in the first place. And obviously a great Canadian squad didn't hurt at all either.
Yeah, it didn't help that it was, a Canadian team with very high expectations, generational talent, setting records. I agree. The atmosphere in Halifax was fantastic, and that's exactly what, who was it, the president of the IHF saying at the end, that this is what the World Juniors needed. They have had, it's been like 3 years since they had a real tournament. Had the canceled one last year. You had summer ones. It just didn't have the same feeling. But when you're splitting it with cities like Halifax and Moncton that you said, don't have NHL hockey, but are hockey crazy cities. I know the Moosehead's extremely popular in Halifax. The arena there was packed, Hustler, not only for the Canada games, but for the other games too. And it was, again, yesterday, you heard the crowd, and you talk about Bedard, against you, what is it, in other games, like, just give it to Bedard. He'll do the work. He's our superstar. Not yesterday. Didn't get on the score sheet, but it was Dylan Guenther with the winner in overtime. The Arizona Coyotes prospect who was brought over, we talked about this, brought over in the Canucks trade for Connor Garland and OEL, which is going to look like one of the worst trades of all time.
Canuck Twitter was a dark place last night. You'd think they would have been happy about Canada winning the gold medal. Not really. It was just a reminder of the assets that went the other way, just to get rid of the Louis Eriksson contract, Jay Beagle contract, and of course, get OEL and Connor Garland in the same deal. And just quickly on the sites, just before we talk more about the players, I'll go so far as to say that this was the best World Juniors dating back probably 15 plus years. I mean, I think of the Winnipeg event in 1999. I'm trying to think about where Canada hosted in the early 2000s, but this event lost a lot of its identity and personality when it went to the big NHL buildings, Montreal and Toronto, those two times. I mean, Vancouver, Edmonton. I mean, it was all great to have them in big buildings, and at some point in the tournament, you'd get great crowds, and you'd get great support of Canadian team. But there is nothing like having it in a smaller junior-sized rink, watching junior hockey players go, and can't say enough about the people from Halifax and Moncton that supported that tournament. It really gave me vibes of the 07 Women's Championship here in Winnipeg, and frankly, two of the best ones that I think really paved the way, unfortunately, for Hockey Canada to try to secure the bag and get more money and bigger venues and take it out of those rinks. But Winnipeg here in 99 and Red Deer, this felt like that. And that is exactly what the World Junior Hockey Championship is all about.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I think of the Grand Forks, one where basically everyone from here went over there and was one of the great teams. So I agree. All the games in the playoff round, their quarterfinal, semifinal, even we were doing the show during that Sweden USA game yesterday.
Oh!
And we just keep hearing, okay, it's 5-5. And I told you at the end of the show, the game ended 8-7, and Chaz Lucius, Jets draft pick, scored the hat trick goal. I do want to say this on the gold medal winning goal in the Canada game. And I said this on the show the other week. I really don't understand. I'm not an NHL defenseman. I'm not a prospect. And I play in low-level beer league. But I will say this. I don't think that laying down on the ice and going for a dive is the optimal defensive play. You saw it there. I pointed it out the other week. Capobianco went for a dive on the Jets on the ice. They just either pass it under you or walk around you. And I don't say it was an easy tap and you still got to make the play, but you really take yourself out of position. I think what's the benefit of, maybe you're better off standing up and trying to block the passing lane. Again, I'm not a pro defenseman, Hustler, or an NHL prospect, but it just seems to me is standing on your feet would be the better play than laying down on the ice and having a guy easily walk around you.
There's a technique to it. When done well, it's great. When not executed properly, it can end up looking pretty bad. I'm not sure there's a great comparison, though, from the Div 8 Highlander League to what's happening in either the World Juniors or the NHL.
Yes, I would agree that. It's a very high-risk, high-reward play, and look, you took the risk on a 2-on-1. Like 2-on-1, you're in a tough spot. But I don't know. I always see guys light on the ice and they just pass it around, pass it under, or walk out past them and pass. Get a free pass. So
as far as the World Juniors go, though, I see MC Stormy saying I've never seen a game like that USA Sweden game. I mean, the only thing I can compare it to maybe is that infamous Jets Flyers game a few years ago that ended up 9-8, 8-7. It was 6-6 late in the game. USA goes up. Sweden ties it with 25 seconds left and a pulled goalie. And it wasn't that great because it gave Jets prospect Chaz Lucius the opportunity to be the hero and complete the hat trick. What a way for Chaz to finish his tournament, Remo, scoring the winning goal, earning a bronze medal. Credit to both of those teams for going all out the way they did in a bronze medal game that often lacks much of the intensity. That might have been and probably was the game of the tournament, albeit for much lesser stakes than Canada and the Czechs played for. But man, a great end to the tourney for Chaz Lucius. I was raving about Rutger McGroarty yesterday. Both of those young men, I think, will come back to their respected, whether it's with the Moose with Chaz or University of Michigan for Rutger, with some renewed sense of purpose and I think excitement about everything they were able to do at an international level. Be interesting to see what Chaz does back here. But while we're talking about the World Junior players, before we get to the current Winnipeg Jets roster in this game tonight, we should talk about Brad Lambert, because by all accounts did not have a great tournament. And I'm not sure what it is with Brad Lambert and that Finnish junior team. And we remember in the summer when they were in the finals, he wasn't playing in the semifinal or the final. And, didn't have a huge role and didn't have a great tournament. And I saw Jeff Merrick speculating earlier that Brad Lambert, he's hearing, is going to be headed to the Western Hockey League in the Seattle Thunderbirds. And that was something that was always an opportunity, an option, I guess, for the Winnipeg Jets at the beginning of the season. And it sounds like organizationally, and I'm sure Lambert and his family will have a stake in this as well, maybe going to to junior and having, some real success, playing big minutes in a major role might be the best thing for the young man right now.
Yeah, it's been a tough couple of years, going back to the other World Junior. He's going so well at the canceled World Junior. Too bad they had to cancel that one. So you're falling to 30th overall. You're battling injuries and illness with the Moose, and you think that you're gonna have a big tournament and kind of reestablish yourself, and it didn't happen. And maybe we saw him looked pretty dynamic at times in the preseason with the Jets, but maybe, look, they tried it out. It hasn't really worked out the way you thought it would. And there's still time to go back to junior and kind of rediscover yourself. We saw Dylan Guenther, who we just mentioned, who scored the winner, spent some time with Arizona this year. He's going back to junior as well. So, look, everyone goes on. And so
is Shane Wright.
Yeah. So
Shane Wright's also heading to Kingston. And apparently, and I'll be honest, full disclosure, I do not follow junior hockey, certainly outside of the ice and what's happening here in Manitoba in the Western League almost at all. But it sounds like there's about 4 teams that are going to be giving the Kingston Frontenac some Godfather offers to try and get Shane Wright and his services for the rest of the season. So that will be something interesting to follow. Now, I see people right now giving their thoughts, and throw this out to chat, or why not question of the day. Post-World Junior, where do you think is the best fit for both Brad Lambert and Chaz Lucius? Is it back on the Manitoba Moose, or would it be, to play a higher role and maybe be a little bit more dominant at the junior hockey level? Give your thoughts on both of them in the chat, or if you're watching afterwards, in the comment. Why not question of the day, brought to you by our friends over at Not Autocorp. I'm sure this is a difficult decision, I'm sure, and there's a lot that goes into it, Reem. The one thing about the Moose, though, is that the team had been going well, and it's not like those guys just all of a sudden plopped in on the top line and we're running the ship right now. There's been a lot of great players and a lot of guys that have made big impacts this year in the National Hockey League, as we've seen through all of these injuries, guys coming back tonight. So I'm really not too sure, but certainly from Lambert's perspective, having really not even played junior, he played with men last year as well. That change of scenery could be positive for him. I would like to see Chaz come back to the Moose, though, especially the way he finished the tournament. I guess they could always send him to junior at some point later on in the season if they felt it was the right move.
Yeah, sorry, I made a mistake. Guenther is going back to the Coyotes in Phoenix. It was Shane Wright who's going to the NHL. I got mixed up there. Yeah, I'm curious what happens with the Moose. Hustler and Brad Lambert, a lot of questions there. They'll decide what the best path is. We've kind of been debating this since he got drafted and since the training camp. What's the best course for him, and we're kind of just waiting and seeing here as we go.
All right, listen, we're going to get into all the Jets stuff right now, but let me just quickly give a big shout out to the gang over at Consolidated Supply. I know we're a week removed from Winnipeg Walters' legendary win in the Marbles Tournament of Champions. But again, a huge thanks to Consolidated Supply, Joe and the gang over there for the great support to make that event happen. What a fun month it was. And we can promise you there'll be some more special Marbles events in 2023 outside of our normal Friday race, but that is happening at the end of the day. And now as we're into 2023, it's time for you to start thinking about the seasons ahead, not winter, but when things get a little nicer outside. What projects are you planning? What are you doing with the yard, with the outside? If you're looking to make some big improvements, Consolidated Supply can help you, whether it's irrigation, artificial turf, outdoor kitchens, hot tubs. They've got it all. And listen, if you have any involvement in the golf industry, you're familiar with what they do. First choice for golf carts, irrigation, and more. It's all there. Consolidated Supply. Pop down and see the guys. They're open to the public, 1395 Niagara Road East, or check them out online at cte.ca. All right. We're going to talk lots about Josh Morrissey, who is a very deserving All-Star for the first time this year. But we do want to once again congratulate Peter and Paulette, our first Unsung Hero winners. And Paul, you guys can expect to be getting that Josh Morrissey signed jersey very soon. Hopefully we'll hook up with you next week. And coming out of the weekend, we'll announce December's winner for our Unsung Hero. And we're already getting some entries for January. And if you've missed this, folks, we've teamed up with Wallace & Wallace and Josh Morrissey and the Dream Factory to recognize some great people doing great work in our community. If you know someone that's spending hours donating their time to charity, helping making an impact in your community, maybe it's spending long hours at a community center, helping run kids' sports programs, maybe it's just someone doing good deeds for neighbors that need it here in Winnipeg. Let us know about them. Send us an email, unsunghero@winnipegsportstalk.com. The winner of the Unsung Hero is going to get a signed jersey from Jets All-Star defenseman Josh Morrissey. Wallace & Wallace making a $500 donation in the name of the Winnipeg Sports Talk listener that made the nomination to the Dream Factory. And Josh and Margot Morrissey are going to match that and double it to $1,000. So we'll announce our second winner next week. And send us the emails now at unsunghero@winnipegsportstalk.com for our January Unsung Hero as well. And hey, you can tell I'm still not over this. On the weekend, I'm heading over to Vita Health Fresh Market. You already know that they've got great prices on natural organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries, and a great local company since 1936, carrying Winnipeg's largest assortment of local products too. But I, and many of you might want to track down some Colflex oregano spray, as battling colds and sore throat has never been easier. Made locally by Initech Nutrition, Colflex oregano spray helps relieve coughs and sore throats and helps to maintain immune function. Get yours today at any Vita Health location. Of course, Vita Health Fresh Market, empowering people to lead healthy lives. 7 Winnipeg locations, including the newest store in Linden Ridge, and online at myvita.ca. And I mentioned that Colflex oregano spray for the first time yesterday, and immediately saw a bunch of testimonials in the chat that they can't, that our listeners can't live without it. So I appreciate the suggestion. You know where to get it. I'll be heading there to get some on the weekend at Vita Health. So listen, great World Junior Tournament, Remo. We talked about some of the prospects. Now it's time to get to the big team because some of the big boys are back. It's been a minute, but Nikolai Ehlers back in the lineup tonight. Blake Wheeler, Cole Perfetti, Nate Schmidt, all coming back in the same game, which is a little strange, but very welcome. Credit to the guys that held it down while they're out. We know where the Jets are in the standings, but now it's time to take on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And man, it'll be great to see 27 and the rest of the guys just back in the jerseys. And I know there's going to be a big Winnipeg welcome for Ehlers and the rest of the returning bodies tonight.
Are they going to do like a video tribute for all four? Welcome Welcome back. It's been a while. Did they do a standing O at one of the
They
TV
should do a
timeouts?
little welcome back, Cotter. Welcome back. They can play that and then have some shots of the different guys
I think
coming back.
I mean, it seems like this is happening way faster than I thought it would. I said that yesterday. It seemed like they were in that slide 3-game losing streak, just ripped off 3 wins in a row, and now you got Tampa Bay Lightning, who coming off a loss to Minnesota, who will be without Victor Hedman. Went back home to be with his wife, who's about to give birth to their second child. But I mean, big reinforcements here, and Ken reporting at the morning skate. Ville Heinola, David Gustafson, and Kyle Capobianco staying on for extra work. And so Connor Hellebuck is going to start in goal. And just going by the lines from yesterday, Connor Dubois Ehlers, which seems like one of the most deadly lines in hockey, Hustler. Perfetti, Scheifele, Wheeler, Morgan Barron, the fastest skater, with Adam Lowry, most accurate, and Carson Kuhlman, who was pretty fast too. That's the third line. And then Axel, Janssen Fjallby with Stenny, who's our new favorite player, and Sam Gagner, Mr. 1000. Defense pairs, Morrissey, DeMello, Dylan Pionk, Sandberg, and Schmidt. So you asked earlier this week who comes out for, although, did Ville Heinola stay on? He didn't stay on for extra work, that Ken reported, but it sounds like Heinola would be out. There's just not going to be room for him, or do they go 11-7?
I doubt it. I highly doubt it. When you're bringing back four forwards, or I guess 3 forwards that haven't played in a while, and Rick Bowness, we're going to hear this from him in a minute, speculated or basically said as much that, a number of these players are going to need to be maybe shifted out every now and then, maybe give them a shift off. So guys like Axel, certainly Kevin Stenlund, Sam Gagner, from that fourth line, even if the fourth line's not playing a lot, they may get spotted in for the odd shift up in the top 6. So that's something to watch for tonight. Bottom line is get there early tonight if you're going to the game. And I think you're going to want to be there to give a rounding welcome back. And listen, it's going to be great to see Nikolai Ehlers. I'm really interested to see how he looks right out the gate. I don't think we should expect the 100% prime Nikolai Ehlers. I think, with the injury he's had, the time he's been off the ice, it might take a little bit. But tell you what, Remo, as we talked about, he sure is coming into a nice spot on the right wing with Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor, who have been two monsters so far, not just for the Winnipeg Jets, but in the Central Division, Western Conference, and in the NHL. And we'll get to how we can back those guys with some All-Star voting in a minute.
Yeah, Nikolai Ehlers, he played 2 games, pretty damn successful. When he's up there, he played 3 points. And playing alongside Kyle Connor, who can rip it. Dubois, been a beast down the middle. I mean, these are the 2 of the top 20 scorers in the NHL this year. And we're going to talk about All-Star voting. There are 2 guys that I put on my ballot. So real nice spot for Nikolai Ehlers. Maybe you don't have to be the guy, but you can use the speed, distribute the puck, create space. So I'm looking forward to seeing Nikolai Ehlers. We really haven't. And shout out to Big Guy in chat. Says, will this be the first time we hear Nikolai Ehlers' goal song at Canada Life Center? And I don't even know what his goal song is because, he hasn't played and didn't score. So will it resonate with the fans like the Dubois goal song has, or Sam Gagner's Mr. Brightside? Something to watch for.
Those are certainly 2 of the top ones right now. So we will get to all of that, and we're going to hear from Bones. And listen, let's just quickly give a shout out, a big WST congratulations to Rick Bowness, because tonight, NHL put this out earlier today, Reem, Rick Bowness is going to be coaching or on the bench for his 2,600 game, the most among any head or assistant coach in league history. 2,600 games. We've been talking about the longevity to get to 1,000 for the 1,000 games. 2,600 is just a mind-boggling number. And as we hear from Rick Bones, he still loves the challenge, loves the job, loves being at the rink. And I think both Winnipeg Jet players, the organization, and the fans have certainly loved seeing what Bones has done so far this year in completely turning around this club.
Oh, yeah. I think everyone's loved what Bones has brought. I don't know if you knew this, but Bones was the one who told Morrissey to be great. And now, not only is he in the All-Star game, you would have to put him as a finalist for the Norris Trophy. He's second in the league among points for a defenseman. So big shout out to Rick Bowness. He's come in and, what was it, seismic change? Is that what?
Seismic change. That's what Chevy had to say.
Oh.
And a lot of people scoffed at that. I mean, it has been. It has been. I mean, we are so far away right now with this hockey club where we were 6-7 months ago. And obviously, he's the guy at the top of the list when it comes to being the change makers. But the buy-in from everyone has been big. This is going to be exciting tonight. And I know Rick Bowness will get a big, big Winnipeg welcome and ovation for another milestone in his illustrious career. But let's get to Bones. Let's hear from one of the key players that is not actually playing tonight, but the guy that'll be center of attention, hitting number 26 on the bench. But the first, I'm getting feedback here, Reem.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just check something.
Anyways, but here's the first clip. We'll just get right to it. It's Rick Bowness on The Buzz with Nikolai Ehlers, Cole Perfetti, Blake Wheeler, and Nate Schmidt, all returning tonight against the Lightning.
I walked into the weight room and they were all stretching. There was a very loud buzz. Actually, the other day when we had a team meeting, we brought everybody in. There was a big buzz in the video room. So I think the guys that are coming back are very excited to get back, and also the guys that were here are excited to have them back. So there's a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement for the players.
All right, so certainly a real buzz around the Jet locker room, and there will be one in the arena as well as those 4 individuals come back tonight. Now, I sort of teed this one up a little earlier, but Bones did say that, this would be maybe a little different than a normal game with these guys in, and this is how he might monitor the minutes of the guys that are returning to the lineup tonight.
No, we'll watch their minutes. We'll watch the length of their shifts. They may have to miss a shift or two. We'll just have to see how the game is going for it. But I'm planning on utilizing some of those guys on the fourth line up into those other spots to give those other guys a breather when they need it. And again, we've got to really avoid the long shifts as much as we can. So we'll be watching those things. But yeah, you're going to see the other guys move up to give those guys a breather.
All right, and we'll talk a little bit more about the team, but as I mentioned, 2,600 games on the bench for Rick Bowness. Pretty incredible career, and Rick Bowness was asked about his personal milestone tonight when his team takes on Tampa.
2,600 games behind a bench tonight. What does that mean to you?
It means we're playing Tampa Bay Lightning tonight, and we need the 2 points. That's what it means.
That's it?
That's it. Yeah, I don't know. We've lost track of how many games. I didn't know. Somebody mentioned it to me. I wasn't even aware of it. So I'm more interested in the game with Tampa Bay. Thank you.
All right, so there's Bones. Not speaking too much about it. Apparently didn't even know. And I guess when you're that many games in, maybe you don't know. I mean, and 2,600 is sort of a unique number, but hey, when you're setting a record every time you get out there, you got to make note of it a little longer. But this is a really interesting bit, and it's a little bit more from Rick Bowness and a little, maybe a window into how he's been successful, how he's been doing it for as long as he's done it. And he was asked about, what keeps him going and coming to the rink every day after 2,600 on the bench in the National Hockey League.
Love the game, man. Love the game. That's it. Just have a passion for the game. I know I'm not the smartest coach. I know I never try to be. You try to be the best you can be every day. But it's the love of the game, and I still love the game. I still love everything about it. I love the practices. I love dealing with the players. I love seeing the players get better. I love seeing the team get better. So I just love the game. That's what's driven me. I'm a bad player, and I know I'm not the smartest coach out there, but man, I love the game as much as anyone.
Sounds like a pretty good job to have.
Pardon me?
Sounds like a pretty good job to have when love coming to?
Yeah, when you win.
You don't love losing. Okay. All right.
The losses, I tell you, the losses get tougher as you get older too. You take them a little more personal, right? But it's just a matter of coming to the rink every day and love being here, right? I'm lucky that I've never had to do anything else because I never did have a plan B. I wasn't smart enough to come up with a plan B. It was hockey or nothing. So I just been very fortunate, very blessed to coach this long, stay in the league this long, and I never take a day in this league for granted. It's every day's a blessing here, and I've never once taken it for granted, and I never will until the day I retire. So we still love it, and we're going to keep kicking.
There's the leader of the pack, Rick Bowness, head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, on what keeps him going and coming by the rink every day. Now 2,600 on the bench tonight, and I'm sure there'll be a nice ovation for Bones for that. But I think the big part of it will be appreciation for what he's done with his hockey team. A big part of this season has been Josh Morrissey blossoming into an all-star defenseman. There's a number of guys that are worthy of being all-stars. As we know, and we've talked about, not everyone gets the opportunity with the format and the way that it's set up right now. But Josh Morrissey is going to his first All-Star game. We'll hear from Morrissey in a minute, but here's the head coach, Rick Bowness, who I think was quite instrumental in getting Josh to where he is today. Bones talked about Josh Morrissey being the Winnipeg Jets representative as of now for the All-Star game, as announced last night.
You know, I just brought him in the other day, and we had a one-on-one talk, and I'm just very proud of him. He should be very proud of himself. He's done a lot of great things, and the great thing about Josh is that he'll want more. He won't be satisfied with this. He's very excited, and he's very proud of what he's done. But at the end of it, he knows, okay, we're going to keep pushing here, and that's what you want to hear from your elite players, that we're going to keep pushing, we're going to keep getting better. But he was certainly pretty excited, and for him and his family.
When you had the conversation with him prior to the season to try to just help set the table for him, is this season unfolding basically the way that you had hoped or envisioned?
Probably a little better than we had hoped, but that's a tribute to him. And again, he's not satisfied. He's going to keep pushing. I think he's far more confident now in his abilities and what he can do out there and how good he can be, that he is a difference maker out there when he's on the ice, both sides of the puck. And I think he's taken great pride in that, and I still think he's going to keep pushing himself to be better in all areas of the game. That's just the type of individual he is, and that's what you want to hear. But he knows now how good he can be and how good he's going to be, and that he is a difference maker when he's on the ice.
All right, so there's Rick Bowness on the Jets All-Star announced last night, Josh Morrissey, and we'll hear from Mo in just a minute. But one more clip, and Remis sort of rolled this out earlier today. Now it's time for Jet fans to step up and support the other members of the club that certainly are worthy of being All-Stars. Connor Hellebuck, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele as well, I think we could throw in, but those guys are all in the vote. And Bones was asked about the upcoming All-Star voting, with many worthy candidates wearing jet blue.
Just going back to the All-Star thing, what do you think about the All-Star vote and all that stuff?
That's
don't want to get into that.
I'm not getting into that. So I don't watch it. I don't, that's whatever is best for the league. Let them do it, and whatever they think is best. And if the league thinks this is the best way to approach and is great for the game, then I'm 100% behind it.
You'd probably argue you have more than one All-Star on this team, though, right?
Absolutely, we do. And I hope some of them will be recognized and voted in. From what I understand now, it turns to the fan vote. So I'm hoping that a couple more guys will get in there. They deserve it. But every team is probably saying that, right? There's only so many spots.
All right, so there's a little bit more from Rick Bowness discussing all the All-Stars. And Remo, just before we hear from Josh Morrissey, voting is open right now, and I think we know what WST listeners and Winnipeg Jet fans need to do, and that's get to their computers and start voting early and often.
I was muted there. Yeah, NHL.com/vote, Huss. That's how you do it. I went in there and selected. You get to vote for 2 skaters and 1 goalie from each division. And look, I see people debating in chat, Huss. I mean, should it have been Morrissey or Hellebuyck? But the way that it is right now, you have to have, 1 goalie? You have to pick a goalie. So there was either Hellebuyck or Saros, I guess, was their picks. And they picked Josh Morrissey from the Jets. So
they could have picked Kyle Connor. They could have picked Dubois. I said this yesterday. I am so fine with Hellebuyck being quote unquote overlooked. Everyone knows that he's been the man so far this year for the Winnipeg Jets. And I'm not sure, did they announce Saros as the All-Star goalie during the game, or did they see him make 64 saves last night, bailing out the Predators in an incredible game and making it? I sort of joke about that. Obviously, that wasn't the case. But it wouldn't be a bad thing for Connor Hellebuyck to get a little bit of extra time off and maybe even have a bit more of a chip on his shoulder, proving himself going forward. And so I think everyone knows Josh Morrissey could not be more deserving. He's never been there before. He's the perfect guy. If there was going to be one Winnipeg Jet going, he was the perfect guy to go. And I'm just so happy for Josh.
There's a lot of people in chat saying they don't want Hellebuyck to go. They want him to have the rest, let him have the well-deserved time off and have him rested.
I'm there with those guys.
What if they got I don't know if they have bonuses for getting named. I don't know, but I like seeing the best players get rewarded. So I got my votes in, and you can vote a ton of times. So I'd like to see Jets fans stuff the box for Connor and Dubois as well. And I'm just trying to pull up the voting. We'll show you how to do it, I think, towards the end of the show.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we'll get that up and kind of run through. But NHL.com/votes, pretty simple. Most of you probably already have an NHL account at some point from doing something involved with the club. And yeah, I can see Helly can take the weekend off like Ovi. Rest. Hey, it's all good. And if we're talking bonuses, get that bonus for the Vezina Trophy. And a great way to remind people of your Vezina candidacy would be to outdo one Andrei Vasilevsky tonight at Canada Life Center. We'll get to that in a minute. But we promised you Josh Morrissey. Morrissey did talk today after being announced as the Jets All-Star last night. And we got a couple clips from Josh. Here's the first one, number 9, Reem. Morrissey on being announced and getting his first All-Star nod representing the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, Bones just pulled me in his office and, never know where that's going to go. So I thought that as soon as he started talking, I kind of had a feeling. And it was emotional. It was exciting for me, to be recognized and get to go to the All-Star game. It's a pretty big deal to me. And, all the people that have helped you along the way and improve in your game and work on your game and, the ups and downs in your career. It's just a pretty cool acknowledgement, of sort of having a good season. And it was definitely a super exciting thing and, something that's a big honor for me.
There's Josh Morrissey, well-deserved, and he should be proud, and I think most Winnipeg Jet fans proud of him and just incredibly happy that he's going to get that accolade and honor, which he absolutely deserves after the monster season he's had for the Winnipeg Jets. Ken's going to join us. We'll talk about this in just a second, but I think we all know, and this is very similar to, I believe, Mike's question to Rick Bowness, if there's more than one All-Star on this Winnipeg Jets team. Here's what the Jets All-Star had to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of guys that certainly could be there and should be there and have had amazing seasons. We're off to a great start as a team, and that doesn't happen, with one or two, or even just a few guys. It's a full team thing, but definitely, there's a lot of guys that are having great years, and would love to see, multiple Jets down there. And like I said, I think there's some guys that really deserve to be there for sure. I think you can put together who I'm mentioning, but we'll see what happens, and hopefully the Jets fans get behind it. And like I said, it's my first game, so I need a couple guys that have been there before and can show me the ropes.
All right, so there's Josh Morrissey. You heard it from him. It's time for Jet fans to get voting. And our numbers are smaller, so I think we need to be better and more consistent at it than maybe some of the other places in the Central Division. All that will be discussed with One Wiebe's World coming up in just a minute. Hey, before we do that, I'll tell you what, Royal Sports has always been the spot for the best selection of gear, fan merchandise, jerseys, and more. I'm going to have to talk to Greg and the guys to see if maybe a little 44 All-Star jersey might be showing up there at some point. I'll tell you what, if you're able to get it anywhere, it'll be Royal Sports, along with the most awesome selection of Winnipeg Jets gear, including those beautiful new retro reverse jerseys, all available. Tons of exclusive Bomber gear you can't find anywhere else. Gear for your favorite NHL team, if it's someone other than the Winnipeg Jets. NFL, Major League Baseball, Raptors in the NBA, international soccer, and of course, snowboarding, recreational skates with the trails opening right now in the best hockey department in the city. It's all there. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Royal Sports Pembina on Instagram. Follow them there for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And a Happy New Year from the gang at F Apparel. Andrew and the gang are now looking straight ahead at 2023. And sometimes when it comes to things like great fitting, great looking custom suits at a great price, there's a little bit of time involved. So for you fellas that are thinking about a wedding or a wedding party right now, now is the time to get in, get your wedding party suited up, fitted down at F Apparel, and take advantage of their great promotions and specials on wedding parties for great savings for all the fellas, and you'll get a great custom suit that you'll be able to wear long past the big day. And this goes as well for 2023 grads. If you got a high schooler that's getting ready for prom and their big day, why not make the move into adulthood with a custom suit starting at $400? They've got it all. F Apparel, 190 Smith Street downtown, and check them out online at that's EPH apparel.com. And hey, before or after the game, if you're heading downtown, you know where the place to be is. Boston Pizza City Place. Game on with all the big screens, great happy hour deals from 3 to 6, the amazing new fall and winter menu, including that mac and cheese burger and my personal favorite, the spicy jalapeno popper dip. It's all there, and also a great spot that I frequent quite often afterwards, maybe for a little victory suds, and hopefully we'll be in that situation tonight after a big win, hopefully over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Bottom line is, whether you're out or at home, you can also order Boston Pizza and the great taste of the BP menu anywhere citywide at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's get Wiebe in here to get ready for a big weekend for the Winnipeg Jets with lots to talk about. Kenny, what's up? How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Huss. Always good to be with you. A great day, great weekend on the horizon, that's for sure. Lots of fun activities on the ice, especially this week, and a little bit of gridiron activity to sort out a few things as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Kenny and Rennie give each other new mics for Christmas. You're sounding perfect.
Yeah, no, we had the mics a couple weeks. It was an early gifter.
Oh, you had them, but now you're actually turning them on.
No, they've been on. They've been on.
And selecting them.
No, we had it last week also. It took a little bit of a while before Remo. We had to switch the preferences over. You know, technical difficulties, part of the brand. Now we're just trying to sort that out.
Hey, listen, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the Jets and this game tonight and looking ahead. But just before we do that, I mean, what did you think of the junior tournament? I kind of spoke at the beginning of the show. I thought the best part about this, and, you know, we didn't really talk about all that black cloud around Hockey Canada for the last year plus, but moving this tournament to Halifax out of these big NHL rinks to a true junior hockey city. To me, I mean, it felt like 1999 again, and I think that was huge for the event. Obviously, Team Canada put on a show. Touch on that, if you will, and then we can talk about the Jets prospects and what you thought.
Yeah, love the environment first and foremost, Huss. I think let's be honest, they got to the point where it was, was all about the bottom line, and having it in an NHL rink became the priority at times, I think, over the last, decade or decade plus even. I love the fact that the folks of Halifax and Moncton really got behind the event. And although Huss, we now reside in an NHL market, would be great to see one back another day. But I think this has got to be a tournament that's played in, London, Ontario, or, places in Quebec that love their sport so much. So, maybe it comes back to Grand Forks, Huss. I think that might be our best chance to cover another one of these or attend one of these.
I'd love to see it in Regina and Saskatoon.
Sure, exactly. Again, I went down to the last one where John Carlson scored the OT winner. I was there with my dad. I mean, just such an awesome environment and experience. And we have the NHL in Winnipeg. We have the American League in Winnipeg. There's junior hockey here as well. I understand that. So, I mean, you could make the argument on that front. But I think to me, Huss, it's all about this. I mean, the fact that they were able to get such great crowds for some of the, lesser type of games. I mean, I think the Latvia game still was pretty well attended. I mean, that's not happening in an NHL market most times unless, you would have had those tickets sold, but you don't get the same kind of vibe because people have to buy the whole package, right? And if you're living in an NHL city, chances are pretty good that the consolation round or the relegation game is not really all that appealing to you. But I think I love it would seem 99. I love that you mentioned 99, Huss. Look at the way Morden kind of and if you were from the Pembina Valley region and you look back to 99 and you had the chance to see the Sedin Twins like on your in a small rink where I played AAA midget hockey, you could have gone to see the Sedin Twins play, right? So that's something that sticks with the community forever. So to me, I love the fact that they're getting back to their kind of roots of the event. I hope they continue to do that. I know there's been some talk about maybe Detroit on the horizon for the USA venue, but I'd love it to go back to a place like Grand Forks. I mean, that would be something that would be well attended by the locals. It would allow some Canadian fans to get over like they did in 2005. And if it's not this time around, I hope that maybe it's next time around. But great event. I love I was wishing that I was there. I mean, it made me think of 2005, Huss, to be in the building and to see how special it was for that group. And it's funny, throughout the tournament, I was thinking that line with Shane Wright and Dylan Guenther, it was giving me kind of Jeff Carter, Ryan Getzlaff, Andrew Ladd vibes, but they weren't delivering at 5-on-5. And lo and behold, there's Dylan Guenther scoring his first even strength goal of the tournament as the golden goal. So, I mean, it was a little bit of, and it's hard to believe that was 18 years ago, Huss, isn't it? I mean, hey, I
freaking old, dude.
That was a tremendous event. It was great to see Sidney Crosby as a 17-year-old and Patrice Bergeron, I think, as a 19-year-old. And that team was just such an awesome group to be around and cover. And it makes me think of being in Gimli for this great practice where Brent Sutter had. It's a surprise that they even had a full lineup available to them with how hard these guys were going in the drills, in the one-on-ones. And, Shea Weber, Dion Phaneuf, Brent Seabrook, all of those guys on the back end just butting heads with, the future Hall of Famers just battling in this tiny, cold rink in Gimli. And again, we know they had dinner at the Urbans after with Ted and, at the Jericho household, if you will, Huss. And, you know what? The kids will remember that moment forever. And if you were in attendance, I mean, my good friend Peter Labardius was there with his son Kale Huss, and that will be something that those two remember forever. And they're just among the 10,000 plus that were in the building. And I love the environment, and I love the singing, and I love the patriotism and all of those things. And
we love Connor Bedard.
Well, it's been impressive. Yes, there's no doubt about that.
Ken, you've watched this game for a long time. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I mean, this was a superlative tournament performance for a guy that has now etched his name in Canadian history with some guys that, frankly, are Hall of Famers. What do you expect from Bedard next year when he's a member of the National Hockey, albeit on a team that had to tank out to get him in all likelihood?
Yeah, it's going to depend. In some ways, Huss, it's going to depend on the bingo balls a little bit on the lottery, but I expect him to be an impact player. I mean, when you have NHL people and analysts saying, this is basically a guy who can shoot right-handed the way that Austin Matthews shoots. I mean, I know that we get kind of caught up in the moment with the recency bias and all of those things, but it's exceptional to see what he was able to do in the tournament. I know this
he's
is
top
a guy
10
that,
shot in the world right now. I would absolutely say that his shot is up there with the best shots on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive for sure. Now, I love everything about him. He comes from a great family. He's very driven. He's, I understand some folks I didn't like it as much, but I think good. He wanted to just talk about the team and everything else. This guy basically gets asked to talk about himself every single day of his life. So I've got no problem with his reaction. I love the fact that, in a game where, He didn't have the same kind of offensive contribution that we've seen. I think actually Czechia did an awesome job against him in terms of trying to limit his opportunities and frustrate him a little bit, that he was all about the team and wanting to win that gold medal. I mean, great. I had 30 plus points right on. I grew up there with some unbelievable players for sure. But all this guy cared about was, delivering. And that's what I loved most about that whole effort. Incredible performance. Can he have an impact the same way that Laine did in his first year? I mean, for sure. But I mean, let's give the kid a chance to breathe and give him an opportunity to kind of get settled in, because I know the other thing, I mean, could he end up being, in that Sidney Crosby class down the road? For sure. But I mean, this guy, let's just let the kid enjoy life. Hopefully he has a great second half and continues to stay healthy and put up points, and see what happens with the Regina Pats down the stretch. I mean, they're obviously not one of the elite teams.
You going to get traded?
I certainly don't. I mean, I know John Paddock a little bit, Huss, and I don't think that was false bravado being put out with him saying that they don't want. Here's the other thing. To me, Huss, the owner of the Regina Pats wants to hear whoever selects from the Regina Pats Connor Bedard. And that's simply, I mean, although it would be unfortunate, I mean, the fact of the matter is that he will be announced from the last junior team that he plays with. So I don't think that the Regina Pats owner wants to have someone say from the Seattle Thunderbirds or from the Kamloops Blazers or from whatever team. We know that Seattle's got one of the best teams in the end, or the Winnipeg Ice for that matter, Huss. Although that would be, tremendous for people in our community. I don't see that happening right now. I think that, and also too, it's also, we talked about dollars and cents right out of the gate. I mean, Connor Bedard gives people in Saskatchewan and all over, if you're within driving distance of Saskatchewan, Connor Bedard is going to be filling buildings for the Regina Pats and every visiting team that he plays against during the second half of the year. So I don't expect him to be traded for those reasons that I mentioned. And,
it's interesting because it sounds like Shane Wright's, he's going back to junior, and there's like teams lining up right now with their offers to find out. And, it could set your franchise up for, a number of years in the future, what that does in the short term. And I mean, it's an interesting point. I never thought about the cachet of having a guy selected from your club, but when you're talking about a player like that, it is impactful.
And it just doesn't happen that often, Huss, right? I mean, it just doesn't happen that often that, the guy shoots out of a cannon and like that picture is going to be everywhere, right? I mean, and people will be saying, if you follow junior hockey, that Connor Bedard was a member of the Regina Pats since he was 15 years old. So, I mean, I think that matters in a hockey community like Regina as well. And I understand that people think that you can just set up your team for life with futures. I mean, that's fine. But then what are you doing for the next, 3-4 months? And then I understand the long-term prognosis, but I think to have that person associated with your program forever, there's something to be said for someone who just stays in one place. And again, look at the way he played. Maybe he's going to try to put his team on, and there could be some playoff revenues based on, maybe Bedard's ability to win a series on his own at some point. And we know Regina's been trying to improve their roster as well.
Well, I mean, right now they're 7th in the East, so
they'd have to make quite a run.
Damn shame if they didn't make the playoffs and you didn't have Bedard playing those playoff games. But anyways, we'll see it. One more quick thing on the World Juniors. Of course, Chaz Lucius had that monster hat trick game in the bronze medal game yesterday. Rucker McGroarty was an impact player. Brad Lambert, not quite as much. We know Rucker's going back to the University of Michigan. What are you hearing about Chaz and Brad Lambert, and where do you think makes the most sense for both of those players to go post-World Juniors?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything on the Jets front, but I know Scott Wheeler was tweeting about it a little bit yesterday in terms of Chaz. They haven't ruled out the Western Hockey League possibility for Chaz Lucius. For me, I wrote about it in my mailbag at sportsnet.ca. Huss, I think the best place for Brad Lambert is with the Seattle Thunderbirds. They've got one of the best teams in the league. I understand that, he's played against men the last couple of years. Yes, I understand that completely. And I think that he's adjusting to the North American game. But I think that especially, had Brad gone in and had, an impactful tournament and played, top line minutes and had 5 goals and 10 points or whatever number you want to put on it, you could have said, hey, let's just go back to the Manitoba Moose and continue to learn. He'll continue to learn no matter where he's playing. For me, I think that Brad could he's not a person, Huss, who lacks confidence in terms of his demeanor and persona. And I mean that in the best way possible. But right now, I think it would be impactful for him to be able to go to a place and go on a run, play 3-4 playoff rounds, potentially go to the Memorial Cup, and then either join the Manitoba Moose if they are still playing, or go back home for a summer of training and he gets ready for his second NHL camp. We can't forget the fact that he had an outstanding camp, but at the same time, that hasn't translated into him being the impact player that we expected at the American Hockey League level. Huss, it's a hard league. The guy's going to turn 19 years old this month. So I don't think that there is any concern about Brad Lambert and his development, but I do think that playing now for the next 3 months or 4 months against his peer group rather than against men where he's kind of still working to find his way, I think that's probably the best place for him. Chaz Lucius, you could make the case for either way for me, Huss. I'd have no problem with him staying with the Manitoba Moose, and I also think there would be benefits from him to go to Portland and play a little bit of a heavier minute load and be used, in offensive situations. But I think that he was starting to gain some confidence at the American League level before he was, injured, before he went to the USA camp. So if it's going to be 1-1, I think it'll be Lambert going for sure and Lucius staying with the Moose. But I could see a scenario unfolding where both players are potentially playing in the Western Hockey League. And especially for Lucius Huss, he just hasn't played a lot of games in the last couple of years. So I think that, the volume of games at a high level, I think would help him. And that's not to say he wouldn't get a high volume with the Moose down the stretch run, but the Moose are going to get a lot of players back who played some important roles with the Jets. So although the development would be a priority, I think that Lucius would probably see some heavier minutes at the Western Hockey League level. But I don't have a great sense for either, but I would say the Jets are probably leaning towards sending Lambert. And I don't know, it's still kind of a 50-50 proposition for me when it comes to Lucius. And either way, he'll make the most of it. And good for him to finish the tournament on a high note. But there were some times where, his game at the World Junior was a little bit up and down, which is what you would expect for a guy who hasn't played a ton. He played 12 games with the Moose before the World Junior. So for a guy who's missed so much time, I don't think anyone expected him to be putting up Connor Bedard numbers, but I think he had a sound tournament overall.
It would be nice if maybe Matt Cockle could get on the phone and see if they could get the rights to one of those players if they were going to go to junior and just have him slide a little further down Pembina Highway towards the ice cave from Canada Life Center.
Portland's going to be here shortly, right? And I think in the next Sunday or two, Portland is rolling through town. So maybe maybe the GMs can speak then.
Exactly. Ken Wiebes with us. All right, Kenny, let's get to tonight's game, the current situation for the Jets on this 3-game winning streak, and now bringing back Nikolai Ehlers, Blake Wheeler, Cole Perfetti, and Nate Schmidt all on the same night, just in time for the Tampa Bay Lightning to arrive. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. Should be a real fun game tonight, and I'm really interested to see how this team looks because they've been maybe playing incredibly hard, and some guys maybe playing in spots above where they normally would be. But as a team, they've found ways to get things done. What do you make of the challenge, both for Rick Bowness to get these guys in, to have it all happen at the same time, and to do it on a night where you are playing against a team that is one of the true measuring sticks in the National Hockey League?
Yeah, it's interesting, Huss. I think on a lot of fronts, it would be maybe a little bit easier to integrate 4 players at a time in a game like Sunday against Vancouver. But I think the problem there, Huss, if the Jets had waited, now you have a disruption of the routine with it being an afternoon game and everything else. I think today would be the most similar to the routine that these players are used to going through with the night game, with the morning skate, everything else. So for me, that I'm not sure if that played a role or not, but I think it's a smart way to do it. What we also know too, and Rick Bowness, showed his hand a little bit when he was asked about it, about managing minutes. The benefit, Huss, for some of those guys you mentioned that were playing kind of above their standing or whatever else, and being able to absorb a little bit more of an enhanced role, is that when these guys need a breather in their 4-line game, you can bump up a guy like Kevin Stenlund in to take a shift or two here or there, and you can use some of the other guys to give you a little bit of a bump if one of those guys needs a breath, like to skip a rotation. I don't think they're these guys are still elite and finely tuned athletes, but it's hard to be in game shape when you've barely played any games. But I do think it just adds another dimension completely for the Jets, Hussam, especially when it comes to a guy like Ehlers, who has played, 4 or 5 periods only this season. So they need to get him up to speed as best they can. Being able to do so is very important. Blake Wheeler was playing at a very high level before he was injured as well. Same for Cole Perfetti. And on the back end, I know it has caused a little bit of an uproar, but Nate Schmidt is a guy that can help the defense corps. I understand some folks, a certain segment of the population may not want him playing over a certain player, but I think Nate Schmidt is a guy who brings a lot of energy and in the right pairing can do a really nice job for the Winnipeg Jets as well.
Kenny, we do have a little bit of breaking news.
Okay.
Curtis Pachelka reporting that the Sharks have claimed Mikey Eyssimont off waivers.
Oh.
Okay. Listen, with the amount of contributions the Jets had from the likes of the players that had been called up, Eyssimont was interesting though because he had just spent. Here it is. Apologies if it's already out there, but it appears the Sharks have claimed Michael Eyssimont off waivers. Radek Simic has been placed off IR to make room for the 23-man roster. And I said this before when Johnny Kovacevic got picked up. This is sort of why the waiver rules are what they are. Guys get an opportunity at times to come in and show that they can play in the National Hockey League, and they're in a situation where, due to numbers, they're not that guy. This is a great story, and if Michael Eyssimont stays in the National Hockey League with the San Jose Sharks, good for him. He will have earned it. And I guess if it's a short tryout and he's going to be sent back, the Winnipeg Jets will have the opportunity to claim him if he does, in fact, clear waivers at some point.
Right, exactly. And this also, Huss, could impact what we were just talking about, like in terms of Chaz Lucius. If the Jets had determined if one or both guys were potentially going back to
Good
junior, now if there's another, it impacts the organizational depth at the forward position. So for me, that could that would kind of maybe swing me back a little bit further on the more likely to return when it comes to Chaz Lucius. So, you know what? Good on Eyssimont. He did a nice job, Huss. And I think if you're the San Jose Sharks, they've done some homework, right? They would have watched Yevgeny Svechnikov play with Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor last year. They would have watched Michael Eyssimont have a brief stint at that turn and seen his ability to kind of impact games at times with his disruptive abilities on the forecheck and ability to get his nose dirty and under the skin of the opponent. So if you're a team like San Jose, even if you are in the tankathon, Huss, you want players that are competitive, right? And what we learned about Michael Eyssimont is that he's incredibly competitive. So now it's up to him to see what he can do with this opportunity. This is a great opportunity for him to continue to stay in the National Hockey League. And although Michael Eyssimont will be forever grateful to the Winnipeg Jets and may come back to the organization at some point, for him, it's a great opportunity to get a chance to stay in the league. We've talked to Michael Eyssimont, Huss, and I spoke with him. So did Mike. So did everybody else. This is a guy who was super excited about first game, first goal, first point. But this is a guy whose goal is to become an NHL player. And with the number of forwards that are returning to the Winnipeg Jets lineup currently, it will be easier for Michael Eyssimont to be an NHL player with the San Jose Sharks than it will be with the Winnipeg Jets. So, let's see how things transpire from here. Could be a short-term audition, but no matter what we do know is that Eyssimont is going to do everything in his power to make the decision very difficult for the Sharks coaching staff to do anything but continue to throw him into the lineup and over the boards, because that's the kind of player he's shown to be during these last couple of months here.
Yeah, well, credit to Eyssimont for earning the opportunity here, making the most of it, and there were some tough decisions. I don't think anyone was really surprised that he was the guy that was put on waivers. But after Jansen Harkins cleared, I thought that the same thing might happen with Michael. So, hey, we'll wish him luck in San Jose, and who knows whether we see him at some point later on this year back in the organization of the Winnipeg Jets with the Manitoba Moose. Ken Wiebes with us. Follow him on Twitter at WiebesWorld. Great turnout live for the show today, folks. If you haven't already, make sure you have pressed that red subscribe button. So, you're eligible to get into the marble race. And by the way, our friends at Canadian Club popped a couple sweet seats in the inbox today. So we'll also have a pair of Jets tickets to give away in the marble race. But make sure you're subscribed and hit that thumbs up while you are at it. As far as the lineup tonight, Ken, goes, what do you think of, were you surprised? The only reason I thought it might be different was that historically, Ehlers and Dubois have not really shown a ton of chemistry together. But when you see the way Connor and Dubois have worked together, the thought of putting Nikolai Ehlers on that line just takes it up another notch. And I'll say this much about those two players. They've connected with pretty much playing with anyone. It's hard to imagine how this doesn't take that line to the next level. What do you make of the returning players? Obviously, Scheifele getting Wheeler and Perfetti back on the wings, and Nikolai Ehlers going right up there to play with 80 and 81.
Yeah, Huss, I like it in a lot of ways, and I think too it's also a reminder that the blender could be openly used at industrial levels, as Scott Billick likes to say. So to me, this is how it starts. How it finishes, we'll see. And the other part too, we know that a lot of those guys have had success in different roles with those people. So I think that Wheeler, Perfetti, and Scheifele was starting to mesh right before the injuries occurred for both Wheeler and Perfetti, and I do think it's a good idea. I think that we saw enough in training camp from Ehlers and Connor playing together that it would not surprise me whatsoever if this was the time that it clicked. And I don't necessarily mean tonight, but in the next 5 games, if this line stays together, I would imagine we'll have a pretty 5 to 10 games. We'll have a pretty good idea on the chemistry side of things. I think that element of speed, with Connor's finishing ability and passing and Dubois' ability to draw defenders to him will just create a whole bunch of opportunities for the line as a whole, not just one player in particular, but that whole line. And, if it's not working, then one of several things can happen. Blake Wheeler's played well with Pierre-Luc Dubois. And, Cole Perfetti had a nice stretch with that group last year. Maybe he moves to his offside. But in the first game back, I like the idea. You have Wheeler in a comfortable position with Scheifele. You have Perfetti playing on his regular and strong side. And you have Ehlers in a place where, those other guys can do a lot of the heavy lifting. And Ehlers can do the zone entries and, get a lot of shooting opportunities and lanes and things like that. But to me, the bigger thing, Huss, is how the power play is going to integrate, because this was something the Jets were looking for, and media, fan base, everybody else, all the people who have been clamoring for Nikolai Ehlers to be on the top unit. There have been very limited opportunities to see what that actually looks like when all those guys are on the ice together as a 5-person unit. So and especially now, Huss, the Jets power play, which had gone through a bit of a dry spell, has been impactful in the last couple of games here, moved up their percentages and everything else. So, for some people who say, oh, well, Ehlers should just have started on the second unit. No chance. This was their plan going into the year. It's time to see what it looks like. I mean, we're getting close to the midway point of the season. They need to find out if Nikolai Ehlers on the top unit works. We expect it will work. And now it's just a matter of guys settling into their spots and finding out where they can be the most dangerous, because we know this, Huss. We've been saying it for years. Nikolai Ehlers on the top unit should make the top unit, more dangerous and probably more efficient, because he brings a certain skill set that not a lot of teams have to offer in terms of the operation, in terms of whether it's zone entries or his ability to shoot off that, the button hook regroup and everything else. So I'm excited to see and witness how that works. Like I said, it may not go 4 for 4 in the first operation of the reinvigorated power play, but I would expect, and it also too will create the level. Us, we've been talking about competition all year, back end, forward group. Now the power play will be back to having a competition, because there is a higher element of skill on that second unit. And now they're going to be going back to more of the 1 minute or 105, maybe, rather than seeing the 120, 130, 140 specials that we've seen from a couple of scenarios during the last stretch here when the injuries were so rampant and the Jets were playing without 7 regulars.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Kevin Stenlund, his emergence. Not at all surprised that he is in the lineup as part of the top 12 when everyone's back. But the blue line's fascinating. Nate Schmidt's come back. He's had a great season so far, and it looks like that means Ville Heinola is coming out. I actually saw someone say that they were upset and they weren't watching the game, because I'm not sure whether that was sarcasm or satire or not. But listen,
some people feel that way, Us. We know some people actually feel that way. Whether they follow through, that remains to be seen, right?
Oh, I mean, I guess maybe it's one of Villy's family members or something like that. I mean, maybe that would be the case. I mean, I would imagine if you're a Jets fan, even if you don't like every single move that the roster is made up, you're probably still watching the game. But anyways, do everyone play their own ball. I won't comment on it. I just didn't know whether it was a joke or not. Anyways, listen, Villy's been awesome. And I think we heard from Rick Bowness how impressed he was with Villy, the way that he's played the last few games. How do you see this shaking out the next little while? It was obvious they didn't want to send him back down. They could have done that. Mike Lessamont could still be a Manitoba or Winnipeg Jet right now, but they didn't do that. And, that's to keep Ville Heinola, who is waivers exempt, up with the big club. I don't think the plan is to have him sit in the press box for the next 2 months if everyone's healthy.
No.
How does this shake out?
Yeah, play your own ball and then follow the bouncing ball, Huss. That's our other favorite thing to do. And you're right. I mean, if Rick Bowness wanted to send Ville Heinola down and didn't want him to be part of the defense competition for the next, 10 games, 20 games, 44 games, the simple move was to send him down. And, he was asked about it after the game the other night. And he basically said, I wouldn't assume that, essentially. He said, let's see how things play out. And I'm with you, Huss. If the Jets weren't planning on playing Ville Heinola, I think it's going to be, first and foremost, I think it could be opponent related. I will be surprised if Ville Heinola is not in the lineup against the Vancouver Canucks on Sunday. Otherwise, I think they would have sent him down to get more games. I mean, I'm not saying that it's impossible that he sits 2 in a row, but I think that he's more than just an insurance policy. They have an insurance policy in Kyle Capobianco. So the fact that Ville has been able to elevate his game during the last stretch of games here, when he's been able to play a few more in a row and playing with more confidence and playing more defensively responsible and using his assets to get up the ice and becoming a little bit more involved, all of those things lead me to believe that the competition is ongoing and Ville has worked himself not back into the discussion, but back into the real mix, even though there are players on the mend and returning to the lineup. So I do expect him to play on Sunday. Like I said, it's not a guarantee, but if the Jets are planning on just, sitting him out both games on the homestand before the road trip, I think they would have sent him back on the road with the Manitoba Moose to have him continue to play. And, there are other factors involved, but the Jets don't like giving up players for nothing. So like you said, the easy move for them would have been to send Heinola down. I think it's a nod to the work that he's been doing. And it's another opportunity for him to continue to work hard. And when his opportunity comes, to show that he continues to push other guys, for a full-time spot. We've been talking about this for months and years. I mean, it's on Ville has to get the opportunity. I understand that, but he had to force the Jets to keep him in the equation. He has done that. And now we see what happens next. I mean, nobody can predict what can happen. I mean, injuries have happened at such a frequent level. Maybe there is an insurance side of the policy involved here, but I think it's because Heinola is still going to be in the mix to play, whether it's Sunday or Tuesday against Detroit. I think today.
Well, let me hit you this, Ken, because you said this a couple times before, and maybe it was premature at that time. But I mean, and I frankly, I agreed with you that when Heinola finally got called up and got to play regularly, that would be it for the shuffle back and forth down the hallway between the Moose and Jets dressing room. Have we hit that point, or is that still somewhat up in the air?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like it to be the point so that I can be right, Huss, but I don't think that I don't know that we're at that point yet. What I do know, this is simple for me. Rick Bowness has a very intimate knowledge of the Tampa Bay Lightning squad and of their power play. So to me, Dylan Samberg is in because he is a high-end penalty killer. And if the game today was against Vancouver, Sean and I talked about it after the game the other night, Huss. I think that in the last game, Heinola was ahead in the minutes played. So to me, that leads us to believe that, on that night he had played at a higher level. So if the roles were reversed in terms of the schedule, I think that Heinola would have stayed in, but because it's against the Tampa Bay Lightning and Rick spent time there as assistant coach and he knows how potent they can be, I think he feels that the size of Samberg and his ability to block shots and kill penalties probably gave him the slight edge when it came to the number 6 spot in that defense core. What number was used the other day by Brendan Dillon, the spin of the wheel or whatever, right? When they were using the 7 defense the other night. So somebody else wondered if, Avco Cup, I think, wondered if maybe the Jets went 11-7 today again. But to me, when you're incorporating 3 forwards into the mix, I just don't think that 11-7 made sense, especially with an afternoon game on Sunday. Rick Bowness mentioned it's not his preference. It would be schedule related. And the reason they used it the other night was twofold. A, they had 3 days between games, and B, there was an issue with Josh Morrissey in terms of his being under the weather and with that illness that he played through and was able to do a great job with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that Rick Bowness has said he's not really a fan of 11-7. Normally they go 12-6, and he's already said that there might be some spot duty for guys like Axel Johnson-Fjallby or Kevin Stenlund moving up in the lineup and playing shifts in the spot of some of the returning guys, just because, Sam Gagner as well. So I guess we'll see how that all plays out. Just on it, I don't know why. I guess every fan base has this. I mean, there's a guy that has maybe a rough few games, or people look at a couple charts and the numbers aren't there, and then all of a sudden he's the lightning rod. When we talk about the blue line, the guy that's there is Neil Pionk. Now, Pionk's had some real highs so far this year. I mean, certainly early on in the season, I think there was quite a bit of chaos to his game for a good part of the season as well. Obviously, it was a massive part of the Jets winning that game in Edmonton on New Year's Eve. What do you make of Pionk's season, his spot in the lineup right now? And is it a pipe dream for people to think that Neil Pionk might be on the bubble of being in and out now that Ville Heinola is around? Or is that just, what do you think about that, Ken?
Yeah, Huss, I mean, it's not just based on what salary you make, but I mean, Neil Pionk has a very long, he has a pretty lengthy list of games played under his belt, and most coaches rely on the overall body of work. I think that Neil has had some rough spots this year for sure. I think he looks like a guy who's playing through an injury again, like he was last year. I don't think it's a broken foot like it was, but
do you think he's been better lately?
I think has been better at times lately, Huss, for sure. But I mean, I would even say he was very impactful in the Oilers game, but there were still some pretty chaotic shifts. Now, having said that, if you're going up against McDavid every once in a while, there are going to be chaotic shifts. But to me, his play has been up and down, and he had a long stretch where he struggled, and then he had a stretch where he kind of looked like he was turning things around. And a lot of his mobility related to me, and he's played with a bunch of different partners, and it hasn't really settled in with any of them, on a level that we're used to seeing when Neil Pionk came over. And the chorus was saying, oh, well, Jacob Trouba, Neil Pionk came in and was the Jets' best defenseman. They obviously play different style of games, but to me, something looks off with Pionk. And like I said, I think it might be health related. But what we know about Pionk is that he is a competitor. He plays hard all the time. He gives the coaching staff everything that he has. But I think, Huss, the thing that we would see, to me, there's no chance that Neil Pionk is healthy scratched for Ville Heinola, which some fans are calling for. This is one of those scenarios where it's like the backup quarterback. The reason people are calling for the backup quarterback is because they haven't seen the warts of the backup quarterback, right? So, and that's not a knock on Heinola.
I'd say we have seen the warts, and I'd say those warts are far less prominent than they were before, and the backup quarterback looks like he might be able to be a starting quarterback.
No, that's fair to a degree, Huss. But I mean, Pionk's done it over a longer stretch of time, right? I mean, Heinola still does not have a lot of NHL games. So yes, he had a nice 3 or 4 game block, but I mean, does that mean he's better than a guy who has established himself in the top 4? I mean, I don't know. I personally, sample size, Huss, what do we hear from that segment of the analytical population? Sample size, sample size, sample size. So I get it. It's chicken and egg here, right? Heinola needs to be played to get a larger sample size to figure out if he can play that role or be better in that role. But I mean, they're not the same player. I mean, I understand that people think that the ceiling obviously should be higher in terms of the offensive production, but I mean, Pionk's offensive production has not been a huge problem, even though he's gone longer stretches without getting a whole lot of points. So I understand people saying, well, if Heinola has been given those 23 minutes, he could produce more. Well, he might be able to produce more offense, but can he do a better job defensively? I mean, that remains to be seen, and you need to have a coaching staff put the faith in that player to do so. But to me, Huss, this is how I would see it. If Neil Pionk is playing through pain, I mean, understand that players play, like Blake Wheeler said, there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. Now, I understand guys want to play through things and everything else, but at some point, if the Jets coaching staff or medical staff gets to the point where they think that some rest could help Neil Pionk down the stretch in the last 25 or 30 games, then you could easily make the case where, hey, Ville Heinola should play, give Neil Pionk a chance to get to full health, and then you can reassess after, that next stretch of time. But I mean, we thought that Rick Bowness would give Ville Heinola a 10-game block. And I think by game 3 or 4, Kyle Capobianco was right back into the lineup. Now, I give Ville a lot of credit, Huss. Since that occurred, Heinola came back and stacked some of his best games as a Jet.
Well, that was the one game, and remember who they were playing that game. That was Minnesota. And I still think that the Winnipeg Jets, when they look at Heinola, feel that he's maybe best suited to shine in games where he won't be getting run by the likes of Ryan Reeves and whatnot. Now, listen, if you're going to be an everyday impact player in the National Hockey League, which I think most people expect and hope that Ville Heinola can be, you got to be ready to do it against the other 31 teams. I mean, you can't be a guy that can play against 20 and is sat out against 11. So, I mean, I'd like to see that happen at some point. But I'm sort of with Maul in chat who said, hey, if it's health related, wouldn't make it sense to maybe give him a little bit of time off. I mean, listen, I know you're speculating on this. I have no idea whether he is being injured or not. But it is interesting. I mean, I guess now and we can't forget about Logan Stanley, who was playing ahead of Ville Heinola earlier in the season and actually did quite well. I mean, especially if you want to look at some analytic numbers, I remember sort of being surprised at how good Stanley's numbers were on a number of games early on, albeit just single game samples. Take those for what it's worth. I guess here's the question. If Heinola is going to play, who's coming out? If it's not certainly as sure as hell not Josh Morrissey. I can't imagine it being Dylan DeMello or Brandon Dillon or Nate Schmidt or Neil Pionk. I mean, are these guys all just fighting for one spot in the top 6, which right now Dylan Samberg is going to be in tonight?
It seems like it. And here's the thing for me, Hassan. Look tonight, and there have been times where it seems like Pionk is having trouble pushing off on his right leg. Like, watch that closely tonight, whether it's, in person or, maybe on the road trip when you see him on TV. And the other thing for me with Pionk that has been a little bit strange, he isn't spending a ton of time skating backwards, Huss, which sounds strange for a defenseman who's had to defend on the rush a lot. There's a lot of times where Neil Pionk is pivoting in the neutral zone and then trying to angle out his opponent while skating forward. So that to me leads me to believe there's an issue with the lower body, whether it's groin related or leg or whatever else. I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV. But his competitive nature is still there. But he's not getting to A to B the same way that I'm used to seeing. And, some people have said, well, you see Neil walking around the room, he's not limping. So, I mean, that doesn't necessarily say there's not an issue, right? Sean Monahan played a game against the Calgary Flames where he got to the rink and left the rink in a walking boot, but it didn't impact his skating the same way one would expect. So it's something worth monitoring. And again, this is a situation where the player, Pionk at the end of the year said, I don't care that I had a broken foot. I didn't play well enough. So I don't know. It's just something that we'll continue to monitor. But the long-winded way of saying yes. I mean, barring another development or an injury, it's 3 guys for one spot. Basically, that's how I view this scenario. When Logan Stanley is healthy, he's in that mix. It also, we're less than 2 months now until the NHL trade deadline. So, does that mean that Ville Heinola has raised his stock in terms of being a player that other teams are going to be calling about? Absolutely. But at the same time, I think a lot of those teams that would be interested in Heinola would have been interested in Heinola because of what he had done already at the American Hockey League level. So, and that's not me saying the Jets should trade Ville Heinola. It's back to what I've said from the very beginning. If you're trying to trade for someone like Ryan O'Reilly or Bo Horvat or Timo Meier or any of the, high rent district items, other GMs are going to be asking for Ville Heinola, now especially a Chaz Lucius, hat trick notwithstanding. I mean, those are the people. If you're not giving up first round picks, you're giving up guys who were first round picks. I mean, that's what it's going to take in order to require a big swing. So, like I said, I think it's going to be interesting. And Logan Stanley, we know, has skated this week a little bit briefly, but I think he's still multiple weeks away. So I think the competition for Heinola will still be in the several week and multiple week category. But I mean, it's going to get interesting pretty quickly here if the Jets get back to full health and those guys that are in the lineup stay healthy. There's no doubt about that.
Good stuff. Hey, by the way, over 500 in chat today. It is awesome. Lots of excitement for this weekend and for the game tonight. If you have not already, hit that red subscribe button. We want to see you here on the reg with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk, live at 1 p.m. Central, Monday to Friday. And the great thing about subscribing to the channel is if you're not able to join us live, you just hit up YouTube and bang, the freshest, latest latest Winnipeg Sports Talk content is there. And the other reason, which goes without saying, you got to be subscribed to enter in our big marble race. And we have 2 tickets for the game tonight, which we'll be giving out in the marbles as well. So you know what to do. Hit that thumbs up, by the way, as well. Thanks to everyone that's done it already. Nice to see us over 200 already for this episode. Kenny, we got to get to Hacksaw, but just before we go, the band is back together. Shout out. You guys did fulfill your promise of doing something on that Edmonton game, albeit a little late. And tonight, you and Ren, be lots to talk about. All-Stars, returns, a big milestone for Rick Bowness. Should be a fun show. And we'll look forward to tuning into that late on a Friday night after the final buzzer.
Yeah, thanks, man. Have a tremendous weekend. And I mean, we know that, like you said, and like Rick Bowness said, and like Josh Morrissey said, the Jets have more than one deserving player, but it's hard to argue there's anyone more deserving than Josh Morrissey, given everything that he's gone through in the last couple of seasons. And for those up in arms about Connor Hellebuyck not being there, I'll tell you this right now, Huss. Connor Hellebuyck is deserving, but he could use the time off more than he could use a post to post in the in the 3-on-3 competition. So I would say that even if he gets voted, maybe he wants to be there. I'm sure he does. He knows he's one of the best goalies in the league. I don't think this is the snub is not going to do anything but either fuel him or allow him to get a little bit of a vacation in and some family time.
The entire format's a joke when it comes to trying to get the best players in. I mean, Leon Draisaitl needs to be voted in. Austin Matthews. I mean, these are stars in the league. Connor Hellebuck's one of them. And listen, even if it's just a small growth of the chip on his shoulder, wouldn't be a terrible thing.
I see fuel from Connor Hellebuyck. That's all I see. Russ.
You got it. Have a great weekend, buddy. Thanks for doing this. Great chat.
Yep. Take care. All the best, my man. Have a great weekend and good chat with Hacksaw here. Cheers.
You got it. There's Ken Wiebe with us. All right. Hacksaw's coming up right now. We're going to get into some NFL football. Of course, big news this week for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the return of Stanley Bryant. And of course, whenever we're talking bombers and curling on the program, we do it for our friends at Princess Auto. Great sponsors of ours. The Bombers are top Manitoba curling teams, curling across the country, and the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. 2 Winnipeg locations, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and you can always shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. New year, new me. Well, maybe not new me, but some new improvements, some new goals. Easiest goal that will help you in a lot of ways. Drink more water. And the gang at Culligan Water have been the water experts for over 65 years, family-owned in Winnipeg, helping Winnipeggers and Manitobans for all their water needs. Water softeners, filters, bottled water coolers, whole home systems, drinking water systems, citywide water delivery services as well, and commercial and industrial water products and solutions. Pop down and see him, 1200 Sargent Avenue. You can give him a call at 694-5180 or check him out online at drinkculligan.com. And a big thank you to our friends over at Canadian Club for those tickets we'll be doing in the marble race a little later on. Couple things to know, though, for all of you that like a great whiskey and a good deal. CC Classic 12-year is on a sale, a big-time sale, lowest price in the last year. There's also a big discount on a new brand, Rifle Rye, that Beam Suntory just released in October. Check out the Rifle and CC Classic displays at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And when you're thinking whiskey, make it the good stuff. Canadian Club, Canada's favorite. All right. Great hockey talk right now. But there's been so much happening in and around the National Hockey League. I've been looking forward all week to getting Lee Hacksaw Hamilton in to discuss what happened on Monday, the aftermath of it, and how the National Football League is handling it. And the Hacksaw joins us now. Lee, best of the new year to you. How's it going?
Doing well. It's been a very emotional week for those of us that cover and follow the National Football League, and obviously making reference to the near tragedy, the life and death experience in Buffalo. Story it just takes new dimensions every morning. Obviously, Hamlin is not out of the woods. DeMar is still in critical condition. He's still in ICU. There's lots of hurdles he still has to overcome. But for him to make the gains he made in the last 36 hours is spectacular. for him to come out of the induced coma, for him to be able to respond to what the doctors asked him to do, squeeze our hand, move your foot. Can you hold this pen? And how do you communicate? You write a note. And then what happened this morning, as he continued to make progress, for him to take part in the, what do you call it, FaceTime with his teammates, and to actually verbalize a question and make a statement to his teammates. And this is Friday, considering where he was Monday night. It's just absolutely stunning. And I'll tell you, as we watched the game, a couple things flashed into my mind immediately when he got hurt. And I just had a real sense, Hustler, that the urgency of those medical people to get on that field, that this was not a typical NFL injury. And I've did NFL football for 17 years for the Chargers and Seahawks, and I saw some real catastrophic injuries, neck, head, knee, but never seen this type of urgency. And I said to my wife a minute into this, because he went down at 5:55 West Coast time. And at 5:56, I said to my wife, I think he had a heart attack or maybe a stroke on the field just because of the frantic efforts that were going on around him. And, there's a philosophy in the NFL that you're one play away from the end of your career because of an injury. I don't think any of us could ever imagine you'd one play away from a life and death situation. What those guys did, those evacuation guys, EMTs, what they did in a 3 to 5 minute window saved that player's life. And, now we've found out, Andrew, because the National Football League normally doesn't talk about how they do their business. Now we found out about the 60-minute meeting. We found out about the protocols before the game where they hold a meeting with 30 medical people from both teams and city officials at the stadium before kickoff of every game, whether it's a preseason game, something in Europe, whether it's regular season, whether it's postseason. And they hold this walkthrough in the worst case scenario. If this happens, these are how the dominoes will fall. And they all went in place. I mean, it was spectacular. I can't imagine, Andrew, what it was like to be a Buffalo Bill on the sideline when they suddenly realized this was not a typical football injury. When you saw all those players form a human wall around the doctors as those frantically trying to revive him because of the cardiac incident, and then the players dispersed, went to the sidelines. And Andrew, you think about the guys who play for the Blue Bombers, for example, and they're big and they're tough and they're athletes and they're phenomenal physical specimens. And to see those guys on the sidelines weep and see those guys hold each other, I got choked up. It was really, really hard. And I thought, oh my God, I hope this is not a fatality on the football field. And then as this thing has progressed, we've seen the brotherhood bond, the outpouring around the league, the fact that his foundation in Buffalo has now raised $8 million. All these players, these owners, pumping the Tom Brady's of the world, the Robert Krafts of the world, making all these donations to that fund. Special bond, special brotherhood along the way. So he's got a long road to travel, but he's alive, and that's the most important thing. And it was inferred to me what happened in the first meeting between Zach Taylor and Sean McDermott. And all you had to do was look at McDermott kneeling on the field. His face was ashen. You knew how serious this was. And then Taylor came on the field and they hugged and they talked very briefly. I give a lot of credit to the referee, Sean Smith, because he kind of took control of everything on the field, Hustler. And he went to both coaches and said, I need you. I want you to have your space. I want you to take your players to your respective locker rooms, settle them down. We don't know where the situation's going to go. I thought Sean Smith did a hell of a job there, and he was in communication with the league office nonstop. And then he came through the tunnel to the two locker rooms. He brought the two coaches back together. And at that point in time, the coaches had met. Zach Taylor in Cincinnati made the statement that Sean McDermott of Buffalo told him, I need to be at the hospital with my player. I do not need to be coaching on the sidelines. And that's at that point the two teams decided we're not going back on the field, and they relayed that to Sean Smith, and then Smith relayed it to the league office, and then they suspended play, postponed, and eventually canceled the game. It's a once-in-a-lifetime horrible experience. Thank God for the leadership of everybody, the medical people, etc., that this kid is alive today. And, what's going on around the country is absolutely amazing. The NFL requested that every team change their avatar on their website, and they put up a block with uniform number 3 and pray for DeMar. It was amazing. And then obviously the outpouring from all the athletes in all the different sports. So to me, it was an unbelievable Monday night, and it's been an amazing growth going forward. And I just want to make a comment because the NFL shut everything down. There was no media contact through Wednesday, no press conferences, nobody allowed at practices. And then slowly they opened it up, and head coaches and a select group of players from different teams talked about what they experienced, etc. I saw 2 interviews that just were really moving. One was from Dion Dawkins, a tackle from Buffalo. And, Hustler, we know about the history of the NFL, players, union, owners, contract disputes, free agency, grievances, all that stuff. Dion Dawkins went on CNN late night and said, we as players have learned something really special about what the NFL did. We know that they care for us. Because players had no knowledge about the 60-minute plan that the league had put in place, and have had that for years, because the league doesn't tell you about their business. But when he said, we now look at Roger Goodell and the league leadership led by Troy Vincent, very different than we ever did before. And then we had a Zoom call. I'll make this final comment. We had a Zoom call with Brandon Staley, the Chargers head coach, when the league looked at the embargo. And I always thought Brandon Staley was just a real bright light as an X and O's guy and as a coach and a motivator. And his press briefings are really fun to be in and around, and he answers a lot of questions. He's not coach speak. He's not old school and all that. And here's Brandon Staley, his first press conference on Wednesday, and they're fighting for the playoff lives, so the Chargers are. He spent 85% of his press conference talking about Buffalo and Cincinnati and the people. And I mean, his comments were that the protocols have given this young man a life to live. And he said, we saw the NFL fraternity at its absolute finest as they came together. He talked about how spooky and rare this injury was. It wasn't a cheap shot. It wasn't a bad hit. It was just an accidental hit to his chest that impacted his heartbeat. He said the NFL's response and the way this thing was structured was incredible. He said, we have now seen the power of prayer in America. And he said the NFL saved this kid's life. I sat there on a Zoom call, Andrew, and I said, oh my God. I mean, we think this coach is a really good coach. This coach's values are absolutely amazing. So don't mean to get emotional, but it's been quite a week covering and writing it.
It has been. And I mean, it's something that, I mean, the specter, the stage was so big. Everyone was watched. This is the biggest game of the year. I mean, this was week 17, Monday Night Football, with so much, and that basically became irrelevant very quickly. Now that DeMar's doing better, and I mean, we'll see what he comes back to. I mean, I have no idea whether even to talk about, does he have a normal life? Is he playing again? But I do have to ask you, Lee, he's just his second year in the league. I believe you have to get 3 or 4 years in before you're vested with all the health care and whatnot. I mean, if this was just a really bad injury that didn't get the attention that it did, but he was never going to play again and deal with things, is he covered? Does the National Football League have his back? I mean, that is the one thing I do wonder about right now, that it's great that there has been this sort of light shone. Not that this is the first horrible. I mean, there's been some serious, tons of career-ending injuries that we've seen before. But, I mean, the battle between the NFL and the PA, a big part of it was on medical coverage in the United States. And I do wonder if this incident itself and the response might hopefully put players that don't have the experience, and aren't these veteran 3-4 year players in a better spot if something horrible happens in the future?
I think you're correct in asking that question. We don't have the inner workings of how the CBA works, but there are always exceptions to rules when you get involved in catastrophic situations. So I believe if he never takes another snap in the NFL, there will be some type of help for him in his next career, whatever it might be. But you have to be vested in the NFL. I think it's 3 years now to get into the medical program. And obviously, the longer you play, the more positive things that you get out of it. You know, you talked about history. In the history of the NFL, in modern day history, there have been 2 players who died. Chuck Hughes, a wide receiver, Detroit Lions, dropped dead of a heart attack in 1971. And I just found by doing research of pictures of that incident, and they didn't have the modern medical help now that the National Football League does. Chuck Hughes passed away because of a blood clot near his heart, died on the field during a game. And Corey Stringer, the Pro Bowl tackle in the Minnesota Vikings, dropped dead during training camp in a trailer after having 3 days of heat stroke remedies. And at that point in time, in 2001, you took players off the field who showed signs of heat stress and you put them in air-conditioned trailers. And at that point, that's just the beginning of ice baths. Well, they never got to Corey Stringer in time to help him in Minnesota. And he passed hours after he had a 3rd day.
I remember that well.
Heat-related stress. It was horrible. But, I mean, there have been other things. We saw the Ryan Shazier broken neck injury. We saw Mike Utley, the Washington State player, who with Detroit suffered the severest spinal damage. Those guys became paralyzed. Darryl Stingley, Hitler, he became a quadriplegic. He lived for a long time after that incident in the 1970s with New England and the Raiders. The one thing I'll say about the NFL, whether we begrudge them how they handled or mishandled or covered up concussions and all that, the one thing, when they've had major issues with health, they have invoked additional plans, Andrew, that have helped the players. Concussion protocols now are radically different. Part of that probably triggered by the lawsuit. We now know a lot more about CTE, but all types of things as it relates to heat-related treatment, to catastrophic knee injuries, to neck injuries, to heads. The protocols in the National Football League are so different now in 2022 than they were 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So the league takes a step forward, and it's a learning curve. It's like everything else. And now they'll do evaluation. How did this happen? The league has indicated, because I was part of a call with Dr. Andrew Sills, the chief medical officer of the league. The league indicated there were no preconceived ideas that he had any heart problems. Nothing had ever shown up. There was no arrhythmia. There's no enlarged heart things. These players go through a phenomenal battery of exams. But that being said, they'll now evaluate, do we need to make and change equipment? And I wrote a column on my website, the 2 things I'd like to see, because we still have concussion issues, and it's still a fast and physical and somewhat violent game. We need to make more changes to the helmet. And Mike Holmgren, the former Seahawks coach, had showed me schematics of a helmet that had been proposed early in the 2000s. It looked weird. It was big, much bigger than the normal helmets, but it had much more infrastructure protection. And players didn't like it. I don't look good in that helmet. Well, it doesn't matter. 22 guys at the line of scrimmage are wearing the same helmet, so nobody looks good, but you're safe.
It's not a fashion accessory. It's it's pretty damn important.
The next thing I'd like to see them do is make it mandate everybody wears flak jackets, thicker and bigger than the quarterbacks wear, because that cushions the blow to any part of the body, whatever it is, and it protects the heart. Because this was a fluke incident where the crown of the helmet hit the kid's chest, which was unprotected, just below his shoulder pads, and that set off the cardiac event where his heartbeat changed, etc. Long answer to your question, but the league, every time they've had something significant, has taken steps forward to address that significant issue to make it better for the players.
Hey, Leah Hacksaw Hamilton's with us. By the way, folks, Marbles registration is open. ! Marbles. We got some Jets Lightning tickets we'll add into the mix coming up in just a few minutes. But Hacksaw, I mean, listen, I'm glad that was what was most important to talk about, the aftermath and everything that's happened with Damar Hamlin. I think you, everyone feels a little bit better about being excited for the playoffs and talking about Week 18 now, knowing where he is. But, I mean, on top of this, and again, this wasn't something I think anyone felt comfortable talking about, but this was the unprecedented logistical nightmare for the National Football League, the competition committee, not to mention, conservatively, I'll say, well over $1 billion tied up in fantasy football leagues around the league, where that was the championship game where so many players were in. All of it secondary to the health of the player. But moving forwardly, the NFL has been wrestling with a number of options as to how to make the AFC as fair as possible, considering the stakes of that game. If the Cincinnati Bengals had won that football game and the Chiefs beat the Raiders on Saturday, the Chiefs were the number 1 seed. If the Bills won that game and then beat the New England Patriots on Sunday, the Bills would have had the number 1 seed. And of course, the Cincinnati Bengals still had not technically clinched their division against the Baltimore Ravens at that point. Take us behind the scenes and what we know now about how the AFC is going to look and how that impacts the teams.
You got 3 hours? You want to talk about the tiebreakers? You really want to do that? No, I don't think so. It's worse than balancing your checkbook. At the end of the day, the owners today, about an hour and a half ago, voted that, there is no Cincinnati-Buffalo outcome. There had been conversation about just giving both the teams a tie instead, but somehow that got pushed off to the side. And they said, no, you can't rig a game by making up a finish. So that's gone away. They are going forward if they must. They're not going to decide till Monday, but they're going forward with the idea. AFC Championship game is going to be a neutral site game. And a lot of people don't like that because Kansas City gets a huge advantage at Arrowhead Stadium. Cincinnati's coach, Zach Taylor, very upset this afternoon after the Bengals practice about the reality of you're taking something away from us if we wind up having to go neutral site. We've earned the chance maybe to have home field advantage if we get that far. The league has decided they'll delay the finalization of what the AFC Championship structure looks like until Monday. That's the simplest explanation I can give you. It impacts, everybody gets impacted by this, but there is another weekend of games to be played. Maybe there's some upsets along the way that are going to change the whole chemistry of this thing. You know, we do have some really big games. You know, there are 6 teams fighting for 2 slots. 3 AFC teams are 8-8. 3 NFC teams are 8-8. And there's only 1 slot in each of the conferences. So somebody's going to go home Sunday night not real happy and disappointed. Did make postseason play. And then on top of all that, Jacksonville plays Tennessee, first place at stake in the AFC division too. So a lot of things to be decided in the final, 8 to 12 to 24 hours on Saturday and Sunday in the league.
Well, it's all going to start tomorrow afternoon. And sort of strangely enough, that Chiefs-Raider game is the first game. So we'll sort of know if Kansas City's the number 1 seed by dinner time on Saturday. Then we move on and we'll find out who wins the AFC South. I will say this. The Jacksonville Jaguars are getting absolutely hosed in this scheduling situation. I mean, the fact that they played on Sunday, Tennessee played on Thursday, and they moved the game up to Saturday with the stakes involved. I guarantee you, if that's the Dallas Cowboys, if that's somebody else, that game is the Sunday nighter where Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are getting a chance to play the Lions. But I guess that's what happens when you're, one of the little guys in the NFL. And then we move on to those games, and we could see the Packers back in after their crushing of the Vikings last week. And I guess the most interesting thing, Lee, from a human side of things, is just to see how the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals respond. I mean, we know they're going to be in the playoffs, but I could see a couple of ways going, specifically with Buffalo. I could see them really rallying around tomorrow and playing for their teammate and, going out there like a team playing with a higher purpose. But you also do wonder what the effects of an unprecedented week and an experience for all those players will be once we get to kick off on the weekend. I know you've probably been, or you have been, all over this weekend. Now it's nice to be able to talk about the games as well, and that'll be dominating LeeHacksawHamilton.com, I'd imagine, heading into tomorrow.
Yeah, I wrote a lot about it today. We did a special podcast last night. So check it on the YouTube channel because I walked through the whole different layers of the whole Buffalo Bills story. But there are games to be played. And I think that the fact that Hamlin was able to actually talk to his teammates today. And the first words that came out of his mouth, were "love you, boys." And the funniest thing was yesterday when they gave him the pen and told him, "This is how you can communicate with us." The first thing he wrote was, "Did we win the game?" And the doctors were taken back, and the doctors wrote on the pad, "You won the game of life," and hold it up to him. And he laughed and he smiled. So kids making progress. Kids got quite a following. It's just absolutely stunning. The bond that players have that come together, and they've never had a life and death experience like this on a football field ever in modern day history of the league. So it's really quite a story. The games, it's going to be interesting. Miami is in a world of hurt without Tua. That's a big issue. We don't know what's going to happen with New England. That quarterback has just become so Jekyll and Hyde this season. Mac Jones, that's a big issue. Pittsburgh, nobody's talking about the Steelers, but Mike Tomlin has resuscitated that team, which was hard early. And now with that kid quarterback and them getting healthy, they've gone from out of the playoffs, his first losing season ever, to 8-8. With an outside chance if they punch Cleveland in the mouth, they could even get in to the AFC playoffs. In the NFC, Green Bay, Detroit. Dan Campbell's done a phenomenal job. There's all this wave of emotion in Detroit as they sit there at 8-8. And obviously Aaron Rodgers he's been dragging a battered Green Bay team and all those young wide receivers. He's dragged them back into the playoff race.
Lions need Baker Mayfield to go off against the Seattle Seahawks and then make that a win and in game, because the one thing I do know, and part of the reason why I'm sure they were confident putting that game on Sunday night, is that the Packers have a win and in opportunity, and win or lose out in Seattle, Dan Campbell's going to have his team ready to go playing what will be their biggest game of the season, even if they are eliminated. So it should be.
It'll be a street fight. Trust me, it will. And by the way, by the time we get done with Sunday night at midnight, then Black Monday happens. How many more coaches are going to get fired? So we got so much stuff to follow. But obviously, what's happened in Buffalo and the outpouring in that community, and what's happened through the entire National Football League, and we have seen catastrophic health events. The NHL's had a couple of players had heart attacks on the bench. I watched a couple of them live, and I thought, my God, can they save his life? He's down on the ice or he's down on the bench on the floor. And the medics came in and saved the lives of a couple of those guys, one in St. Louis and I think one in Detroit. And there have been other multiple incidents like that. We've not had that in the NBA. We've not had that, I do not believe, in modern day baseball. What we saw, and because Monday night NFL football is so immensely popular, whether you love the teams or not, you watch it because it's an event on TV. And to see that happen, Hustler, on live TV the way it was, to me was shocking. And I felt for Joe Buck and Troy Aikman as broadcasters, because they're put in a very untenable spot. They're viewing it from a distance with TV cameras, but they have very limited information. And they kept pitching it back to the studio. And then Susie Kolber with her roundtable at the stadium was trying to cover time. And then they'd pitch it back to the studio. And they were in real tough circumstances. The one thing I don't quite understand is ESPN has this cadre of access to everybody anywhere. I got phone numbers of doctors. If I were in that case, how come there was not a Zoom call to a physician who could talk about what he was observing, talk about heart injuries, chest injuries, etc.? That's the only area that they really fell short on.
Yeah, it's so hard, though. Everything's happening in the moment. The first things first, they're checking out on the player. But anyways, the bottom line is it ended up being the best case scenario considering what we watched. Lee, thanks so much for doing this. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll talk next week about some coaches getting a pink slip and the first round of the playoffs. Have a great one. Thanks for doing this.
I love you, despite the gear that you're wearing. Andrew, take care. Have yourself a great weekend. We'll catch you next Friday.
Thanks so much. There it is, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, the Listen, I knew we'd go a little long with Lee today, but there was so much to get to coming out of Monday, and I wanted to make sure we spent some time today. And really, I mean, still a lot up in the air as relates to the playoffs, but we'll have some more clarity when we get to Monday. All right. Very quickly, we got to do some marbles here. Let me just quickly get to our Coolbet lines, but I do have to thank our friends at Nick and Nicky DQ Group for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. It's nice outside. It's always blizzard weather in the Peg, at DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, DQ St. Anne's, and of course the DQ out in Niverville. Blizzard cakes, ice cream cakes, great burgers, and more, and the best ice cream treats around. Big thanks to Nick and Nicky for their support of the boys since the start. And hey, Little Brown Jug's ready for the weekend. Have you tried the new Good Times Variety Pack from Little Brown Jug, containing four all new beers, including a stout, rye extra special bitter, Kolsch, and West Coast IPA? You can find it at Little Brown Jug in the Exchange, Liquor Marts, or anywhere that sells good beer. And hey, if you are participating in a dry January, try Bright Water, Winnipeg's only local sparkling water made with high quality, all natural extracts and filtered dechlorinated water. Bright Water's zero proof, zero sweetener, and zero calorie, so you can consume consciously. Order from littlebrownjug.ca or bright, BRITE -water.com. All right, let's get to these Coolbet lines. What do we got for tonight's game? I was hoping to get an exclusive up, so maybe check that out a little later on, for the Jets to win and Connor Hellebuck to have more saves than Andrei Vasilevsky. Goaltenders aren't confirmed yet, but we do believe that we will get the Vasilevsky-Hellebuck matchup. I know the Jets were promoting that. But this is basically a pick 'em now, folks. Jets were a bit of an underdog earlier. I thought plus 101, but right now, minus 109, minus 108. Take your pick, a straight-up pick 'em. No Victor Hedman for the Lightning. We got the Panthers minus 150 in Detroit to take on the Red Wings. The Nashville Predators, I mentioned UC Saros last night, 64 saves. Have a feeling he's going to get the night off. Caps are minus 159 favorites. Three other games in the NHL tonight. Coyotes and Blackhawks, basically a pick 'em, minus 107, minus 110. The Islanders in Calgary to take on the Flames. Calgary, a pretty significant minus 225 favorite. And the Sharks and Ducks finish things off at the Duck Pond. Anaheim, a plus 124 home dog. And if you go to the Coolbet exclusives right now, our Lock Shop Partner Parlay is back. Got a nice number at plus 625. Rams plus 6, Lions plus 6, Steelers minus 2.5. You can check out a ton of great exclusives for the weekend, including one I just came up. Bears fans might like this. It's the Bears are on the clock parlay. It is a two-gamer, Minnesota to win and Houston to win. If that happens, the Chicago Bears will get the number one overall pick in the draft. And that one, I believe it was 193 when I put it in. It's posted in the exclusives at plus 220. If you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST when you make your first deposit. Get a 100% boost up to $200. All right, let's get Remis back in here. It's been a busy show, lots to get to, but we got to get to the marbles. I imagine Remo seems to be lots of people in. This is going to be another big one today. How do we want to do it? We've obviously got our hoodie, sizing, hopefully, that works out, and we've got these tickets. I'm thinking that we give the first place winner a choice of either the hoodie or the tickets, and then second place will get whatever they don't have, and if it is the tickets and someone can't go, we give it to third place until we know who's winning.
Yes, I think that is a good choice, Hustler. And if sometimes it's always tough getting in touch with people. Like, you can't message people on YouTube, which is tough. So stay in the chat. Let us know what you want, and we'll try to do it. So
yeah, that's what's happening. When we get across the finish line, we're going to ask you in chat if you win, or you want the tickets or hoodie. You let us know. So second place, you're winning something, and third place, stick around, because if one of the top two can't use the tickets, you will be the lucky one to do it. All right, we should get after it.
Yeah. So we have about how many entries here? 209 entries. So many people in chat. If you are here, hit the thumbs up. hit the
And if you're one of the
subscribe
other 200 plus that's not in the marble race, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know why people don't.
I know Hacksaw was great, but I don't know why you wouldn't be in. It's free. It's fun. Just got to press that red button and put in exclamation mark marbles. It's so easy.
Real quick, I'm just going to do my voting for the All-Star game. Hustler right here. Here. So I got, this is the, what is this, Metro Division? I got, you can sort up by points. See, uh-oh, it's loading here. Anyways, I logged in with my username. I'm going to vote. We only care about the Metro. It's kind of cool. You can got all this. I got Panarin. I'll throw in Nico Heischer's having a nice season. Drag him in there. One thing I don't like is if you want to bring up goalies, I got to hit the goalie thing. And they already have Shesterkin in. I'll put in, I want Sorokin. He's having a good season. That's my pick. I go next. Who you got here, Hustler? I got this is the craziest. This is why I don't like these divisions. Like David Pasternak's like top 10 in league in scoring. I have to vote for him. Make sure you vote for Pasta. William Nylander's having a great season. I'll vote for him too. They order it here by points as well. And then goalie. I don't know. This division was tough for goalie. That's why Allmark got in because there really isn't a standard. I don't know if you like Ilya Samsonov, Matt Murray. I guess Vasilevsky would be the default pick here. Hey, Huss?
Well, yeah. Although Matt Murray's been unreal. I mean, he actually has been a great story. I haven't checked his numbers as of late. But, yeah, listen, Vasilevsky, it sounds good.
Tracy says in chat, that interface is so clunky and slow. I don't like it. I actually agree with her. It's a pain in the ass. I don't know if I'm supposed to click on the guys and they populate the box or I'm supposed to drag them in.
Well, this will be nice and easy. I think
this will
be
nice and easy.
Here.
Central Division.
10 times a day, folks.
Okay, Kyle Connor. Okay, and then we're gonna put in Connor Hellebuyck. Or people are torn if Hellebuyck should go or not. Or you want him to have the rest? Like, do we vote in Hellebuyck's biggest rival and make them go?
Well, I think for the voting, let's vote for Connor at the start. He at least deserves it out of the gate, and we can make that decision. Although I wouldn't feel comfortable in orchestrating not voting for Connor Hellebuyck to keep him out of the All-Star game.
Yeah, and so for the Pacific, I mean, Draisaitl and Nuge are both top 10 in scoring. But you have 6 goalies. Like I'm having such a hard time picking goalies, especially for the Pacific Division. Like who's the goalie other than Logan Thompson? Like John Gibson, Stuart Skinner, Markstrom, John Quick, Phoenix Copley, who's on a heater right now. Like who's?
Well, where the hell's Vamilka?
He's in the Central now.
Oh, of course.
I know that. Well, that's why the divisions is so wonky because some divisions are loaded and some aren't loaded, and I don't know who to pick here. Like I've struggled with this one.
Pick Jonathan Quick. Give him a lifetime achievement award. He's not going to go anyways.
I like John Quick. So anyway, so you fill out your All-Star selections. They try to sell you some merch. Anyways, here's my votes. This is our voting. We did it. We got Dubois, Connor, Hellebuyck, and Kyle. Submit votes. Okay, watch this now. I got 4 additional ballots in this 24-hour window. So easy. I just click it, and I do it.
Nicely done.
There you go.
All right.
That's our All-Star voting.
There you go, folks. They're the walking papers. Make sure you get those correct selections in the Central Division. Figure out the rest and resubmit it a few times after you make it in. All right, let's get ready for some marbles here.
I'll close
you want to prop Tristan Rivers, and then we can.
Yeah, we have all these choice theme songs now. Do we pick what?
Dealer's choice. I think just surprise us with one of them.
I get to pick. Dealer's choice. Oh man, I get to play DJ. Which, if anyone has a one they wanted to hear, let me know and I'll slap it in there. That's about it for me, though.
No, I say you just make an executive decision and throw one in, and let's get going with the big marble race, including tickets to the Jets Lightning tonight at Canada Life Center.
Yeah, I mean, what a game it's going to be. And you mentioned this. I saw it on the digital board ads, Huss, that the Jets were promoting Hellebuyck versus Vasilevsky.
Oh yeah.
And I got to be honest, I was kind of surprised. You don't really see one-on-one get promoted like that.
No, they're doing a lot of things differently this year, and I'm here for it. Hey, this is a great test for the Jets. You knew all those players were coming back, but we think we got the best guy in the league. So when he's going up against Vasilevsky, hype it up a bit. Why the hell not?
Well, Vasilevsky, so he may not even play, Hustler. He's game time decision, according to their reporter, so that a Daily Faceoff there. And did you see what happened on, what day was it? Like Wednesday when they played Minnesota? He was scheduled to start. I had him in my DraftKings lineup. And I guess they pulled the switcheroo and put in Brian Elliott on the second game of back-to-back. And it hosed me in DraftKings. So
there's obviously something up. Well,
yeah,
we know that Hellebuck's going to be there tonight, whether we get that Vasilevsky, and maybe that's why they haven't put up that exclusive yet, just waiting for confirmation on whether he's going to start. I don't think we'll know until the game tonight. But that being said, somebody from the marble race is going to have a couple sweet seats from a WST, courtesy of our friends at Canadian Club. And, of course, we've got the hoodie as well. First place will get the choice. And then we'll award second place with whatever the winner does not select. Are we ready to drop Tristan and get this going?
Yeah, I'll shut up because people don't want to hear me talk anymore and waste time as I get this ready. I did see one request. We're also getting requests for the track, and we can talk about that. But here, I'll do the music first. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
It's Friday, another week of work's gone by. You deserve to treat yourself, maybe an ice cream cake or a bottle of rye. From the whole day intellect you can't deny. Why use effort even for pleasure? You find luck to try. It's time to do a marble race. No to separate and best to worst. Marble race. It's just like marbles if the punctuation first. Marble race. Don't spare or you will suffer rolling fate. Marble race. Get to your mark before it's too late. Yeah, set go.
All right. Tristan Rivers music. The man, the myth, the legend. Marbles time. Jay Miller's asking why not to say, hey, we want to spread the wealth. We've got an extra prize today. We're giving away 2 prizes. The winner gets the choice. Second place, though. Normally we don't have something for second. Today we do. But again, if you win, I'm going to ask you right in the chat to let us know whether you can go to the game or whether you want the hoodie. Second place, pay attention. And third place, pay attention, because on the off chance that it's for the tickets and second place can't make it, you will be first up. Remo, what are we thinking for the marbles right now?
Someone in chat requested the Coils of Power.
Oh, Coils of Power, sure. That was a good one.
Which I thought was a good one. They said, bring on the coils.
And by the way, I always love this. I'll often get emails, DMs, or texts from friends when the marbles are dropping. A special shout out to Bozeman, who has just texted me a picture of him watching WST, ready for marbles, beachside in Hawaii, I believe he is right now. So first there was Roscoe watching marbles in the middle of a romantic dinner with his significant other in Paris a little while ago, and now who's his Hawaii poolside. So good luck to you guys. I guess if you win, it'll be the hoodie because you're obviously not able to go to the game tonight. Great turnout, over 200 in. Folks, if you didn't get in this time, make sure, ! marbles next time. It's fun. To reiterate, first place, a choice between the hoodie or a pair of tickets, sweet lower bowl seats for the Jets and Lightning tonight. Second place, hang tight. We'll find out what the winner wants. And then you will get the either the hoodie or the tickets. And as I say, if you can't make the game, third place, you let us know. Coils of Power, first marble race of 2023. Shout out again to Winnipeg Walter, the winner of the Tournament of Champions last Friday. And all right, we've gone long enough. It's marbles time on WST to kick off a big weekend. Let's go. All right, the always interesting Coils of Power intro. There's a special noise, too, that the coils make, Reem.
Yeah, it's this background noise.
It's a little buzzing.
It's
Not
like
sure people get it. Ooh, Rob Somerville just acing the opening funnel. Who's coming in? Mitch, Rob Kane's there. Adam Wyshynski, Brass Bonanza. Looks like Rob Somerville. Oh, John Paul's first out. Rob Kane, second out in 2023. First people that's been thrown over the top rope. Mark A, Val L just got zapped by the coils. Who we've got here? Who's first down? I think it's Todd Fertani looking good. Adam Wisniewski.
Oh, there goes Russ Lowen.
Russ Lowen bounced.
How are they falling off here? They're just... Oh, Rob Somerville.
Get bounced by Corey. Oh, Rob Somerville after that great start. He's out of here. Over the top rope.
This is crazy. They're going...
Looks like Adam is looking... Oh, vanishing point. Oh, yeah. Just got popped. Oh, Bayo. Joey Panks. Over the top. Lauren Grattan. It is sort of funny just watching people get out. Look at Todd Fertani in the lead right now. Todd... I don't think Todd's ever won, but he's in there. Oh, Chunky with a big red. This is going to be a great race. It is tight. Val George. Adam. Now we're going to the next coils. We could see some more eliminations. Royal Sports Team Sales bounced. Jeff Johnson also thrown over the top rope. More coils of power. And this is the final coil before heading down into the final stretch.
This is a crazy one, Hustler. Everyone's seems to be in it, but you could be eliminated just at any time. Like Randy D and Winnipeg Chester,
bounced
right there.
Oh, you got a couple more. Kitty Pup. Brad Woods just got zonked.
Okay, here we go.
All right, we've got some people coming out on both sides right now. This is so close. First place, Val George bounced out. No. Who is it going to be? Chris Vermette on one side, Chris Lowen on the other. It's Vermette. Oh, I'm glad we had something for first and second because that was as close to a photo finish, I think, as we've had in a very, very long side. And wow, just like that, everybody came down at the same time. Let's see these final results. Chris Vermette, attaboy. Nicely done. So Chris Vermette and Chris Oberton. Vermette, couple seats tonight. Do you want the Jets tickets or do you want the hoodie? Let us know. What was the time there? Okay. Wow, look how close that was, Reem.
Yeah, Chris Vermette at 229.122. Chris Oberton, 229.189. So, like, what is that? Less than a tenth of a second apart. That's literally, it doesn't get closer than that, Hustler.
No. That might be the closest race that we have ever had. Chris, let us know in the chat if you're thinking tickets or if you're thinking the hoodie. And Chris Oberton, you hang tight. Well, you can send us an email either way, winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. And we'll make sure that we got you guys hood up. Did say, okay, Chris says hoodie. Did I miss that?
Yeah, he said, by God, like Jim Ross, and said he's already going to the game, so he'll take the hoodie.
Attaboy, Chris, good season ticket holder, good supporter. So, hey, Chris Oberton, where are you at, Chris? Can you make it to the game? Just confirm with us that you can. And if that is the case, we will get you set up with the tickets for tonight's game. Hello, Chris. Chris Oberton, are you there? Imagine if Chris was not here and unable to win the tickets.
Yeah, we'll have to find an alternate thing there. So I'm not sure. Do we sit here and wait or?
Well, we'll give Chris a moment. Maybe he's watching just slightly delayed or something like that. Who's third? Hockey Guy Jeff.
Hockey Guy Jeff.
Okay, Hockey Guy Jeff, what you should do is just precautionarily send us an email at winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. And if we don't hear from Chris in the next little while, we'll end up getting them to you. So there you go. Chris Oberton. Hockey Guy Jeff, send us there if you're still in. And oh, by the way, thanks everyone for getting us out to 300 likes. That is amazing. Great way to finish off the week, Remo. The team's hot. The shows have been hot right now. It's been a hell of a lot of fun in the chat. It was great to see everyone in there. All sorts of different takes. But we will make that happen. All right. So, hockey guy Jeff, are you here? Or Chris Oberton?
No, I haven't
Chris
seen
Oberton
them.
is here.
Oh, hockey guy Jeff says he's going to the game. I don't even know if Chris Oberton is there, Hustler. People are saying redraw like a social. I do have to say, this is amazing seeing so many people here today. Biggest numbers of the week. People are fired up for the matchup with the Lightning.
Oh, yeah.
And also seemingly everyone coming back in the lineup. So.
Yeah, no, exactly. All right, just go back up to the top 10.
Yeah. Oh, Chris Oberton says, wow, he's here.
Oh, he's there. Okay, Chris, are you good to go for the game tonight?
And hockey guy Jeff said he's already going.
Chris, send us an email, winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com, and we'll get you set up for the tickets tonight. Awesome end of the week, Reem.
Yes, again, what a week it's been. Back from holidays or back on the regular schedule. I know that we had a bunch of days off because of the holidays, but this is going to be a good stretch here in January. We have everyone coming back. We just got Morrissey as the All-Star, Great World Juniors. This is fun. Oh yeah, NFL playoffs just around the corner as well. I am in final of my fantasy, so this is good.
You guys are still playing? Hell yes. Awesome, Chris. Okay, send us an email. Congratulations. Shout out to Canadian Club. That was really nice of James to send us those tickets over. We knew we'd get one of you guys into them. Chris, winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. I'll get you those tickets sent out right after the show. And other than that, Remo, let's get this pod up so people can listen on the way to the game. Everyone have an awesome weekend. Enjoy this game tonight. Jets Canucks on Sunday. And we'll have a big one to get after it on Monday. Breaking it all down and discussing the Jets heading on the road. Thanks to all the sponsors that make the show happen. Thanks to all of you. Real fun in the YouTube chat today. Shout out to podcast listeners. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday on WST.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.